Hey everybody. What is... Oh, I think this did... Well, it wasn't a line. So we launched this morning. I've got all of that information in the today command, and there are, a decent number of people who've played this or tried it out so far. I have gotten 25 responses in the feedback stuff, so I want to read through that. I also kind of want to fix some of these issues, so maybe we try to fix them now. Hey, Stilling. Yeah, add miss text for when crush misses. How do we even do this? Because right now it's doing just nothing. Yeah, we need to set this on the target. I guess we could... All right, let's close out of these many tabs, and then let's figure out where we stand here. Come on. Oh my goodness. There's so many. Hey, Darkstorm. I was just writing so many notes earlier. Geez. Okay, there we go. So, battle window. We have a way of adding text. Add floating text. So I think we can just do this here and go to crush. And when it misses, we add the text miss. Target is the target and color is red. And that's it. That should just work. Screen frozen? Oh yeah, thank you. That happens every once in a while. Well, I guess all the stuff I was showing off doesn't matter anymore. All right, let's try this out. So now we should be able to... Uh-oh, target not declared. Targets. I guess we need to put this up here. There we go. Hey, Smo. Okay, so start a new game with a warrior, and I'm just fixing the issue you mentioned, Smo. So now when we hit crush, if it hits, we see damage. If it doesn't hit, well, it's a 20% chance to not hit. Yeah, there we go, miss. Yeah. So yeah, now it at least shows up. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, add in a respec button. This might not be easy to do. I guess I could put a button here, like refund all points. How would this work though? Because you'd already have the abilities. Well, what's in this dictionary of character data? It's a dictionary, sure. What is it? Oh, we link to an ability? I don't think we have a way to level something down. I don't think I can do this. Yeah, I know it works for some people in Firefox. Yeah, I'm not going to look into that. I don't think I'm going to do the respect button. And then I might not do this. Can I remove the tab index of buttons in a battle? Is there like a tab property here? I don't know. Godot, prevent tabbing to a button. How to block focus input events? Accept event. Focus mode, allowing you to set navigation through keyboard or mouse. Okay, so we just search for focus in here. Hey, there it is. Mode equals all. So I think we can just set mode equal to click. Can only grab focus on mouse clicks. Maybe we just say can't grab focus. What happens if we do that? Does that fix it? So we end up with two characters. We go into a battle. We click a button. And now tab still works. Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. That's what I want. Okay, cool. So let's go check this stuff in. We want to also modify git ignore so that we have out.zip here. All right, ability button. What changed here? Gradient texture 1D. Weird. What did change here? Oh, that's not a change. I don't understand why. Yeah, they're not changes. Weird. Oh, I see what's going on. Hey, Mudkip. Okay, so fix tab not working after clicking button. All right, there's that one. What does this change? This is remove character. This didn't work in web browsers. Start audio volume lower. Start audio volume lower. And then crush is display miss when crush misses. Yeah, and then this is add out.zip to get ignore. All right, those are all our changes. Let's go rebuild and publish. Project, export, save, okay. Now go and compress this. Edit game. Upload files, out.zip. All right, there we go, save. Cool, so those bugs should just be fixed now. So now if I go to play the game, how would I test this? What was the easiest one? There's crush, there was the volume, there was... Let's just try out crush. Oops, that one. So we just needed to miss. There we go. All right, cool, it's working. Okay. So I want to look through feedback. I also want to write this down. Launched the game. Spent a while processing feedback, making minor improvements, and figuring out the final design. Feedback time. Let's go read through some of this stuff. Okay. So here is the aggregation of all of this. The majority of people do find it fun, and 2 people find it, like, definitely find it fun. Then a bunch of people are neutral. No one finds it, like, completely unfun, but yeah, definitely some people don't find it fun. But that's okay. I mean, 16% of people didn't find it fun, and 16% of people found it neutral. So yeah, not too bad. Hopefully my response doesn't count. If the game were to eventually launch as a finished product for $5 to $10, I would purchase it. So 1 person's on board, and like a decent number of people might buy it. But yeah, definitely some people wouldn't pay money for this. I do kind of wonder how this question was interpreted, which is like the finished product part. I hope people weren't thinking I was asking, hey, would you buy this in its current state? Maybe I should clarify that. All right, storyline. Yeah. There's 40% of people want a storyline. Some people don't really care, and some people don't want a storyline. People wouldn't want to pay money for anything. All right, so I feel like there could be some interesting systems in there, but they aren't obvious. I don't think there are any systems that wouldn't have been obvious at first, because it's really just the battle system and the skill system. Fun UI controls tutorial progression idle. Okay. Darn it. I gotta ask these questions better. Like, clearly I want the game to be more fun, but like, I was kind of hoping people would point to what they like or don't like. But yeah, UI definitely needs to improve. Controls need to improve. Tutorial, yep. Give enemies more identity. At the moment, it's just spam attacks no matter what type of enemy it is. Doesn't feel like they're unique or like the battle actually matters. Yeah, this is interesting because I don't know if I can make the battles matter in a game like this. Other than maybe the boss fights, if we had them be manual or you had multiple characters teaming up. Can you get the game link? Yeah, check out the today command. I feel like someone say yes to paying for it to support you. Yeah, they definitely could. That's true. Um, yeah, making enemies unique. So part of this is there was no effort taken to do this other than very few cases. So here, for example, there are three enemies that actually have no two enemies. Only two enemies actually have different abilities, and those different abilities aren't anything too extreme. So I think the enemy variants can be done. There can be enemies that debuff you, or enemies that I don't know, summon enemies or something like that, or that do AOE against you. That's certainly possible, but I don't know if this is what this person would want necessarily. But yeah, I think that's at least the plan that I have. So I kind of wonder, should there be a lot of things that persist in between battles? Because an enemy that debuffs you, lowering your attack, for example, doesn't really matter if you just leave the battle immediately and then it's not affecting you anymore. So I think I want that to be the case. We should make a game command. Yeah, I can. Let me see. Is it in the idle thing? Yeah. Acom game. Alias game idle. There we go. I submitted this response. Let me know if anything isn't clear. The giving enemies more identity. Do you feel like it's just if I made it so that enemies had different abilities and everything, that would feel different enough? Yeah, my own thoughts. I think we need more things to persist between battles. Maybe buffs and debuffs. Otherwise, differentiating enemies may be a challenge if they debuff you and then you just leave the battle and don't have anything to worry about. I don't know how that typed that many R's. What is an identity? I mean, I think it's clear enough what the sentiment of this is. I'm not sure if I'll address it exactly. But for example, in a lot of other games where you manually control a game, it's like there will be enemies that run toward you and attack you. There will be enemies that run away from you. There will be enemies that if they're in a group, they'll attack you. There will be enemies that try whittling away at you instead of doing a lot of damage up front. And that way, the things that you're fighting feel a little bit different and you can kind of get used to it. I think having enemies have abilities might do that for the game, but I'm not totally sure. And yeah, certainly for the prototype, I didn't care too much about differentiating them. All the enemies are really just different sprites for the same general behavior. And it's not like they look like they have different attacks either. That's another way you could differentiate them. You know, three different enemies can still do an attack, but one is, you know, throwing little needles at you and the other one is shooting a fireball. Feels like I'm fighting the same enemy with yeah. And that is exactly what you're doing right now. Large areas, create enemies that follow that theme, give them certain common traits or attacks. Yeah. Yeah, the large areas thing I'm a little torn about because part of it has to do with the thought of you have multiple characters and you want the battles to be close enough to each other. So like if all of the current world map were just the forest area, then you could, you know, maybe zoom to this level to see it all, but then the battles are really tiny. And like so but maybe a new UI could put all the battles at the top of the screen, that idea of like pinning battles. Oh yeah, no problem, Mudkip. Yeah. And you've got to type this stuff out, whereas I can just talk. Um, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I think having different abilities, I think that'll make a little bit more sense. I think the other thing too is like the overworld behavior is they just walk all over everything. You know, there could be slightly different overworld behaviors as well. Can't you scale the UI separately? I can, yes, but what I was thinking more was that the battles right now spawn where the characters are. And so if you're looking over here, the UI that's now off screen could be large or could be small, but you can't see it. So you need to either pan the camera way over there or you need some way of the battle being moved onto your screen. And so yeah, pinning battles just to the top of your screen could potentially work. Incorporate some Metroidvania mechanics. Some areas that can only be reached by burning vines of the mage's fire or by tunneling with a swordsman. Yeah, something like that can be done. I think in a lot of Metroidvanias there's this almost like puzzle mechanic to figuring that out. And I don't know about a puzzle mechanic here. Like I don't think I'd want it to be puzzling to do that. I think I'd want it to be just like, oh, you need to go do this thing and it tells you what to do. Because I don't know if figuring that stuff out would be fun. Like we definitely made a shell of a game. Like this is not an entire game on its own. And so figuring out where to fill in that shell is challenging. Because there are lots of things we could do with that. Okay, anyway, gate character unlocks more. Yeah, this is something that I'm not sure exactly how we'll end up doing this in the final game. But for now, I just wanted it to be you get the characters, you can kind of understand how the game works. Give heroes pathfinding at some point, so we don't need to manually guide them. Maybe have 2 distinct skill trees for each character, automation and skills. Yeah, I think the pathfinding, like, I think of pathfinding as kind of 2 things. One is going between these areas. Like if I'm here and I click on the right side of the screen right now, it should path around this well and then go to the door and then through the door. And so same thing, if I click now down to the bottom left, it should go something like this and go around this set of trees here. So that's one part of pathfinding. That is not what this person's talking about. The other part though is finding enemies and navigating to them. And I'm still not totally sure how I want this to work. I want you to be able to get into battles when you want to, and when you don't want to, get away from them. So if your character always just kind of gravitated toward the enemies, you'd have no way of getting away from them. They'd all be like very powerful magnets, essentially. So it needs to be probably a checkbox or something saying, okay, hey, go wander around on your own. Hey, Eternal Ghost, it's going well. We launched the game today. You can check it out in the today command. And I'm just looking through some of the feedback right now. So I do need to figure out how wandering will work. And then, yeah, a distinct thing for automation. I kind of wonder, we could have skills or something that, yeah, maybe applies a weight so that you're not always just randomly picking a skill. I have to think about that some more. Add more customizability to automation. This is, oh wait, is this all one piece of feedback? I need to, hang on a second, let me take a look. I don't know if this is all one person's feedback that I'm reading through. I don't even know how to find that. Ah, yes, I see. This is all one thing. Okay. I thought I was reading separate responses here. Let me go see. Does the UI make it clear who? It probably does, and I shouldn't be looking at this in dark mode. Yeah, it does. Oh man. Okay, well, I'm just a dummy. Yeah. I realize that now, but it looked like they were all separate ones. Got it. Okay, yeah. So this one, I think of this going in a number of different ways. So the way I went was randomly chosen abilities. Another option is choose abilities sort of smartly. Another option is the player controls priorities. And another option is the player controls in a fine-grained way. Like imagine scripting. So one thing that's going to help a little bit, and this does not help automation, is that you will be able to click the abilities even when you're fully automated so that you can choose manually what you want to use. So here's the problem with applying weights to skills. You would always don't like that you can control battles at all, because if the choices are obvious, why even have you make them? And it's like, if you have a most powerful ability, then it's like, always use this, right? And if you have a situationally powerful ability, then you'll say to use that ability, you know? Like you're in a group battle, you wanted to use the AoE ability. And that's what kind of makes me think that this option is probably just the best one. It's like, just pick that stuff for you. And yeah. I think the issue here is we're kind of clashing with the expectations of a player. You should have an even number of answers so people are forced to pick a side and not pick a middle option. You mean the Likert scale? The Likert scale is like a tried and true thing. And I feel like rather than try to dig into exactly what makes for a good scale, I'll just use one that's definitely like well known and has good track record. Also, I think the neutral thing is pretty important because, well, I guess you're not necessarily saying. No, you are saying that, yeah. I was gonna say neutral is pretty important because some people really don't care about something. Anyway, I'm inclined to not necessarily give more customizability. And yeah, I do wonder how all this stuff will be taken because the way I've always looked at feedback is there's something here that caused a person, and granted, we know what person we're talking about right now, so it's like this person could just explain, but there's something that caused a person to want to write this down, and it's a thing that they might find interesting in a game. And maybe it's possible. I mean, someone might give feedback saying like, I want 40 different spells per character. And then they get into that game and they're like, wow, I'm overwhelmed. I didn't think this would happen. So sometimes there's a processing of their feedback to see what's the validity of it or how does it work through the lens of my design. So yeah, in this case, I think it's tough to make the design work with you choosing abilities because how I probably think about this more than Woodgut. Thank you for resubbing. Welcome back for 17 months. All right, let's see. Add equipable items to make the gameplay loop more interesting. At that point, I think this game would benefit from a roguelite system. Love a town akin to the one in Darkest Dungeon where you can recruit and train heroes. Okay, so I do think some of this stuff represents almost a different game. Like adding equipable items, I think is generally a good thing, or generally expected in RPGs. And I think it's like, what does an item system do? And there are lots of things. It makes currency interesting. Well, it could. It adds some choices. It allows for increasing power without increasing the level of the character. It allows for transferring those items. So in multiplayer games, you'd have trading. In a single player game, you don't have trading, but or not with other players at least. But at least like equipping new characters with old/strong items. And it may give a reason to fight different enemies for their gear drops. And so a lot of these things, yeah, can be good. And then some of them can be like, what's the sort of downsides to a system like this? And it's the other side of adding choices. Like it's more choices may be overwhelming or not meaningful. So I just started playing Diablo 4 with some friends, and at the beginning of the game, it's almost pointless to look at what items you're getting. Like when you're level 5 and you see that there's a green number on your item, just equip it. It doesn't really matter. Level 5 doesn't, it's not a hard level to get through. It probably matters a lot more whatever the max level is. It should, because I mean that's what Diablo's always been based around. And yeah, then there becomes a tipping point where it's like, okay, now you need to improve your items to be able to do better at the game. So yeah, I'm concerned that if I were to add items, it's another thing to balance. So another thing to balance, add UI for, teach the player. And I'm just not sure what upsides I'd be trying to get out of an item system. How about a relic system just like Hades? It would alleviate the complexity and wouldn't need an inventory system. I don't remember how the relic system worked. I played Hades a long time ago and only like once. Relic system, Hades. Artifacts? Are they called artifacts? I think they're artifacts. Artifacts are rewards for winning underworld encounters, which either benefit Zagreus's current escape attempt or can be spent to obtain permanent benefits on future attempts. I don't remember the part about, I don't remember any of this actually. Hope I didn't sound imposing. No, you didn't. And I hope I don't sound like I'm just shooting everything down. I want to consider everything, and then at the end of the day, I need to figure out does it enter into the game or not. You can only equip one at a time, and it gives various bonuses. Yeah, okay, so something like that. I see what you're saying. Yeah, a system like that I don't think is necessarily overwhelming. And I think this idea of like constantly having to upgrade or manage your gear can be annoying. And again, it's like I've made games in the past, and this game that I made, Ophog, it had an inventory system. Each character could only equip 2 items. And so your warriors all had the same 2 items applied. And I think there was some way of like cheating in items. How did this work? I forgot how this works. There's some way to like grant you an item. What is this? What? Loading. All right, I'm just gonna press keys on my keyboard until I figure out how you add in an item. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we got some items. So yeah, you can equip items. And again, just think about this. Like you need the UI for this. You need tooltips for your items and stuff. Like we can see some stuff down here. There are some stats. And then it would affect, oh yeah, then the other thing is you can only equip them to certain characters maybe. So there's that to consider too. So yeah, lots of complexity. Modifying characters, I kind of think should be just done through the skill tree though. And maybe, but I guess the thing about an item is it's assumed that you can equip different ones. So yeah, there is no concept of that in the game right now where you could change your skill order. I guess you could equip different abilities, but that might not make it in the final game. Consider putting each skill on its own cooldown and just execute them when ready. Would remove the RNG and need for any smart auto selection. I don't know if that was considered. No, wait, I think it was, but I had this concept of taking turns. Hey, problem. Yeah, maybe we should consider that some more. I never thought about this, or maybe I didn't really think about it. I don't know. I think this is a pretty interesting thing to consider. Yeah, if you're already not making choices. Okay, I like this a lot. I'm gonna write this down at least as something to consider. People are talking a lot about how to optimize or how to automate. May help. Why won't it paste? Oh, right. It doesn't paste sometimes because I need to refresh. How to influence panel. Yeah, sometimes refreshing works. I don't know how that breaks, but yeah, I'm doing well, bro. Hope you're doing well. I would say it's way too slow for me, but that's just me. It's probably not just you though. That's the thing. But I think there's only so much you can do about speeding up a game like this. Like you don't want battles to last 1 turn, for example. So I think the speed of the game would increase once you have like 5 or 6 characters. You'd feel like, okay, there's always a character I have something to do with. This is really interesting. And I think if we design your 3 skills and don't let you customize them, although maybe we should let you customize them, then we might be able to have enough control over this where this all just kind of works out. I want to think about this in the context of the current game. Oh, why did this freeze? Huh, weird. Okay, so let's just get into 3 different battles and take a look at this. So Fire Blast, Lightning Zaps, and Boulder. So as soon as these things come off a cooldown, we just constantly be using them. I could see this working. So it doesn't matter if one ability is better than another one. It opens up some design space. But if we're going to do that, I think we need to give each class 4 abilities. And so there can be some like really long cooldown ability. Yeah, I like that a lot. Oh, although it'll break the mage completely. Because the mage has a chance on every attack to reset the cooldown of all of their abilities. So we need to change it to be like, oh, minus 10% of each ability or something like that. Yeah, the document on screen is at the idle command. Yeah. Okay. If we do this, we may want 4 abilities per character, and we need to revamp mental swiftness so that it doesn't just like spam cast spell. No, leave the mage alone. Nothing's getting left alone. But yeah, I wonder. So then when you're taking. Wait a sec, though. But okay, I guess this would hurt the manual portion of the game, and that it would essentially delete the manual portion of the game. Because if all your abilities are usable as soon as they come off cooldown. Okay, what we need to do. Okay, we would also need to change the manual portion of the game so that all abilities are always ready. Otherwise, there isn't actually a choice. Right. Oh, man. Maybe there is no manual portion of the game. Yeah. If I'm exposing an automation skill that only takes away agency, then perhaps I shouldn't be exposing it in the first place. Allow them to chain attacks that inflict poison and attacks that do bonus damage thanks to poison one after the other. I think the way I would want you to have influence over the individual cooldowns would be through the skill tree. And the skill tree could be... What is going on with this? The skill tree could be maybe slightly more interesting. So right now we have rapid slash. Let me add some points here. Okay, right now you have... There. You have rapid slash and you have dire slash. Imagine if there was another point, another skill that just said something like lower the cooldown of this ability by 0.1 seconds. And so if you want that one to be used more often, you might put points into that, I guess. I could see that sort of thing happening. I didn't get why the manual portion was there. It didn't seem to fit the rest. So the way I originally thought, and this was just an idea, I don't really think it panned out, but I was originally thinking, oh, hey, remember old games and how, yeah, you used to have choices that you made, but the choices were always really obvious. And yeah, what if we had you go through that, but then got rid of that? I am leaning more and more toward we just cut this out. And yeah. Yeah, I think this is something we strongly consider, and this is something we strongly consider. Okay, so let's break these apart though. No, I don't think there's any breaking these apart. Yeah, I think this would also cut down the complexity. So it would cut down on the difference between turns and ability cooldowns, which can probably be confusing. Did I apply to Asmongold's Shark Tank? No, I did not. What is this? Real Shark Tank style show for video games. Do they get some portion of the company? I'm guessing yes. I'm surprised it makes sense. This is 1 month ago. OTK, the media company owned by prominent streamers like Asmongold and Emiru, revealed that it will produce a Shark Tank style streaming show called Pixel Pitch. It will give indie game developers the time and the spotlight to present their projects and ideas in front of OTK creators who will provide feedback and the opportunity to make their dreams a reality. I don't think this is probably for me. The player unlocks more attacks, realizes that because they lowered the cooldown of attack, it messed up the chaining of some better new ability they locked. Oh, the way I'm picturing this is it's all additive. So I think it was different from what you originally suggested. But basically, imagine you have 3 abilities. Slash, it's on a 3-second cooldown. Sweeping Arc, and it's on, I don't know, a 5-second cooldown. And Crush, and it's on a 7-second cooldown or something like that. So the way this would work is at time 3, you use Slash. At time 5, you use Sweeping Arc. At times 6, you use slash again, and at times 7, you use crush. And then, yeah, time 9 will be slash, and time 10 will be sweeping arc again. So, and so on and so forth, right? And so if you're lowering the cooldown, all you're doing is you're adding in more attacks. And so the only way this would hurt you, I guess, is if there was some kind of combo system. Like if you do 3 slashes in a row, you do more damage. But like the battle system wouldn't be around doing that if it's actively fighting you and achieving that. So I think it would just be something like this. Did you like the show, Hotel Soap? I think it would help if the skills were explained better. Right now, I didn't feel I had much agency because the only real choice are the level ups, and those are hard to judge without trying them out. Yeah, you really don't have much agency though. That's that's kind of the core of the game, which I think is tough because it does turn this into more of a simulation game than it turns it into anything else. And that's where I kind of think that changing the title could help. Like if this were called RPG Simulator, you might be like, oh, okay, I understand what's going on. Hope the launch went well. The launch has been going well. We're going through some feedback and we're kind of talking about things. And yeah, if anyone wants to check out the game, it's there. And remember that this is the launch of a prototype. So this by no means was supposed to represent a finished game. It's I mean, look at this. Like I start a new game, I can walk right out of bounds. Like that's intentional. I never did anything to stop this, and I know that this has been an issue since day one. And like the final game wouldn't have that. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that you'll come across where you're like, hey, why are these buttons like bright blue? There's just a bunch of cut corners. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going through some of this. Random spawns sometimes lock you to an earlier level square for longer. Yes, that's definitely true. For example, I started with the second room being filled with level 8 creatures. Until I could beat them, I couldn't get any lower level creatures there. Yeah. Yeah, let me copy paste this into another. Okay, so random spawns lock you to an early level. This is a known issue that I also know this, but the way that this works is on level up, you go to 100% life. And on death, you go to 25% life. And if at less than 100% life, well, if missing any life on the overworld, you slowly heal. And that healing gets more rapid as it goes on. So I think leveling up happened so often that it looked like there was some other weird thing going on or something else at play, but it was really just leveling up that put you back at full life. What are the controls? The controls are right underneath the game itself. So just go to the game page and look at the controls. I'll leave them on screen here if you want to see them. Actually, I'll leave them on screen over here, and then I'll continue to look at this stuff. Okay, having the characters reset to the first room when they die could use some work. Maybe somehow pulling more attention for the user or resetting it back to the room before the one that they died. Though then you'd want some system that slightly punishes you for dying a lot, I guess. Yeah, this was the death system needs to be reworked a little bit. I'm thinking of turning them into either a ghost and you can run to where you need to be, which is probably a bad idea. Probably just a tombstone. Yeah, like I'd originally planned. Yeah, so your character probably turns into a tombstone when they die, and after, 10 seconds or something, they come back to life. And maybe they come back with full life. It's probably a good idea. Hey, Zapboid. Yeah, I think that's got to be done. Let me write that down. Death needs to be changed. You should turn into a tombstone, not a ghost, so that you can't move. Or if you do turn into a ghost, or an immobile ghost, no movement, so you can't bypass zones. And wait to get to full health. Maybe it's like regular regeneration, but a little bit slower. Yeah. Hey again, Zens. Did it not post a... No, it did. Okay, good. Yeah. A notification. All right. Yeah, so having them reset. Yeah, so this is going to be changed for sure. Getting into battles is sometimes very fiddly because the enemies run away when you get there. Suggestion to have slightly bigger box to start the encounter, make enemies slower. Yeah, I think this is reasonable for sure. Having some way to tell a character where to go and having them resume their way after they've won the encounter on the way, similar to pathing in an RTS. Guess I'm just not enjoying the movement micromanaging too much. I think it sometimes works like that already, but it wasn't reliable. Yeah, this is, it works when you win the battle. When you lose the battle, it doesn't work. And this is also something that I have planned for the final game. Like there will be some way of your character just kind of wandering around a zone on their own or wandering toward enemies or something like that. And there's got to be a way to turn that off. So I'll write that down here too. Did I write that? Some characters, read the prototype. Yeah, this is designed, but I didn't put it in the prototype. There needs to be some way to turn this off too. Did the keyboard cam freeze? Yes, it did. Wow, everything froze, didn't it? I don't know. Wait, what? It's seriously not coming back? Well, I think OBS just froze. Is it updating or am I frozen on the screen? Can you even hear me? Can people hear me? Yeah, everything froze now. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm back. But yeah, I think the keyboard camera is just busted. What happened here? Hear me sometimes? I'm not dropping any frames. Can you see me moving again? You should be able to. Let me see where the webcam is plugged in and just unplug it. Where is this plugged in? This, yeah, unplug. Okay. It's back in now. All right, let's see. Can I re-enable this? Yeah, nice. All right, thank you. Sorry about that. I don't understand the blue progress bar during battles. So that was your turn cooldown. So like every 2.5 seconds you take a turn, but then your abilities have their own cooldowns. This will probably be changed for the final game. Can I share the link to that document? Yeah, it's the idle command. Yeah, thank you. Although I realized that was you doing that. Okay. So yes, definitely need a way of getting into battle somehow. In fact, this kind of makes me wonder, should I turn off the feedback form? Should I just disable the prototype at some point? Because like at some point I'll have heard all the feedback I need to hear and I'll be like, well, we know we need to change. I should probably just leave it up. All right, did I look through all of this? Oh, misclicking when upgrading and putting points into a skill that I wasn't using felt very bad. Yes, I totally agree with this. So I think a lot of this represents things that I know about and want to change. So random spawns, definitely a problem. I'm going to write that down here too in case I don't have it already, which is zones become, or like progress becomes nearly impossible at points because there's only one zone, one like clear level choice, one clear zone to level in. Yeah, that's how I want to say it. I agree. It's kind of confusing. Yeah, I think I'm going to totally change that system. And honestly, maybe that's worth prototyping before we make that change, although it's going to break the balance of the game. Anyway, no music at all. Yep, totally. I just never even added music. Health system is unintuitive. I think this can be made clearer. And I think this is feedback we should definitely write down over here. Need to make it clearer how health regenerates. When leveling goes to full, but there could be an obvious effect for that. When dying, we'll have the tombstone system. And when regenerating on the overworld, I think the player-wide skills will make that clearer. Probably less confusing with a better UI. Yeah, I think it'd be less confusing too with just a totally different system. What's the automation skill default? So yeah, that one doesn't have a tooltip, but it's 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100% chance to choose an action in battle for you. So when you've maxed it out, you no longer control battles. If I was at the lower end, I just had to avoid half the room. Yes, yeah. Definitely true. That's not how the final game is supposed to be. This was all like very hastily thrown together. So yeah. And by the way, this is the kind of feedback where I hope it doesn't sound like I'm like, well, this is all just gonna be fixed. It's like there were certain things where I thought, yes, this is definitely a problem, but it's not maybe necessary to understanding what the game's about. I recognize all of these things can impact your fun level though, because if you're like, wow, I'm having a ton of fun, and then I hit level 6 and I just can't get any farther, but the max level is 50, you'd be like, well, it's not fun anymore, right? So yeah, I get it. And oh no, sorry, what skill is choose? Yeah, it's random. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm very much leaning toward this system that we wrote down here, which is abilities just get used automatically when they're done off cooldown. And I think this is probably worth prototyping, but like I said, it will break the balance of the game. So just imagine this. Get into a game, and let's get into a battle here. Okay, see how all of these are filling up? Like as soon as they fill up, what if they just use the ability? And actually, I don't think I wrote this down, but this would open up some design space because now you don't need to have two abilities be balanced between each other. It also probably means, well, actually, still kind of do, unless you can choose which are equipped, which may be more fun. I feel like we got to prototype this. Okay, let me write that down. Where's our this thing? We need this. Okay, next thing to prototype will be the new ability system, which will break the balance. Get rid of player turns. Get rid of manual control. And have abilities be used as soon as they're off cooldown. How can you buy extended arc? You have enough points. So you have to unlock all of the automation skill first. So you have to put your 4 points in here, and then you just click extended arc. Reminds me of Vampire Survivors. I think it's a neat way to handle it. Yeah, it is kind of like Vampire Survivors, I guess. Yeah. It's like the RPG form of Vampire Survivors in that. How much of a story are you looking at? I think it would help make the game better. Pretty minimal, but probably more than nothing. Being able to hold down right click to move the character would be nice. Bit awkward to have to mash right click. Yeah, I'm hoping that like right now you have to mash because that's how you get into battles. But I'm hoping that in the future there's like a wander ability that just kind of simulates doing this. Like imagine if I'm not clicking anything right now and my character's just moving around. And like maybe it'll try steering toward a battle every once in a while. In fact, maybe that's sort of how this can be done. Like guaranteed that you'll get into a fight within some amount of seconds. I don't know. Idle Survivors isn't a bad title. I don't want idle in the name. I think it gives off the wrong impression. Oh, and hey, Hanakoma. I see the vision. Yeah. What are you even planning to give the players a way? Wait, am I planning to let them reallocate points? Yes. Yeah, that was something that I planned for the game always, and I just never coded. Could there be a way to use keyboard directions instead of right clicking? There could be, but if we're going to have some sort of like wander ability, I think it'll be less important to do any of the movement stuff. Yeah, every character does DVD logo movement. If you hit the corner, you level up 5 times. Yeah, I'll write this down though. Holding right click. I think this probably classifies as easy to address feedback, but I'll still put it over here. All right, so this may matter less when there's wander AI. Each character can get abilities that auto-fire on cooldown and have interaction between them. Yeah, I guess the interactions between them part might be interesting, but I was gonna say that's pretty much just Vampire Survivors. Yeah. Has the benefit of work with a touchscreen? Yeah, I don't think there should be a problem there. Two games I was thinking about that kind of battle system are Loop Hero and Reynad's card game. I didn't play Reynad's, or I haven't seen Reynad's card game. But Loop Hero I played, I just completely forgot how it works. Oh, you walk past stuff and it just does something, right? I don't remember cooldowns being in the game though. I think your character just walked around this thing and then did something based on what else was on that tile. Well, thank you, Trackley. Yeah, and I don't think you should have to buy the game just to support the stream either. Um, and I think that's fair as far as feedback goes, right? Like I'm just not a fan of lots of sports games. So if someone made the best golf game in the world, I'd be like, I do not find this fun. So yeah, definitely to each their own. All right, let's keep looking through the feedback. Did I address all of this? I was looking through it a second time. Characters resetting. Yep, I think this is a problem we can fix. Getting into battles is fiddly. I think we can fix that. Having some way to tell a character where to go. Yep, misclicking when upgrading, putting points. Yeah, so all this stuff is pretty important. I think the respecking is very important, and I still need to put some thought into that. I like the Eidolon type beat bones you have here design-wise. I'm not sure what the first part of your message means. Having multiple characters doing their own thing asynchronously is very cool. Allows for some neat state of flow gameplay. Do you have any plans to let the characters do group combat? The group combat is a big up in the air thing right now because my original stance was it's a lot of complexity for something that won't add a lot to the game. But I think enough people expect it or are asking about it, where maybe even just from a player expectations point of view, it's worth having. And the way I would envision it working is right now, there are 3 characters in the game. But imagine in the future that there are, let's say, like, I don't know, 9 characters that you can have. And so for any boss battle, what is going on here? For any boss battle, imagine you choose 2 characters and they fight together against the boss. And instead of 9 slots on your side, you have, I don't know, 15 or something. Something like that. And yeah, I think that could be kind of cool. I don't know. You need like you need some UI for choosing which characters are going to fight the boss, which hopefully would be a little bit easier than a proper party system. Oh, bare bones. Oh, okay. It's funny because by typing beat bones, the automod actually caught it. I thought, I'm not kidding here. I thought that this was some kind of rhythm game that was based around skeletons because that's what it sounds like. Noisy the most of the times I can't engage an enemy even if I'm over them or like under. You know, I should probably just increase the size of this thing right now. Overworld character. So we have the collision shape. I think this is set by the script though. Yeah, I like intentionally set it to be really small. I divided by 3 though. We could just divide by 2 and that should fix it. There. So now it'll be a little bit bigger. And if we do visible collision shapes, so divided by 3 would have been 8 pixels. So this adds 4 pixels. Ignore the bigger collider there. In fact, you can't really ignore the bigger one, can you? Why is that so big? That means you can click to the left of a character? Is that true? It is true. Wow. How did this get so big? I mean, it's probably not really a big deal. I don't think anyone would notice it. But yeah, you can click to the left of a character to make it select them. Yeah, I never intended for that. I'm going to try something though. What happens if I just move this off to the side for now? I don't even see their collider. I think it's showing up Whoa, what in the world did I, what? What is going on over here? Oh, I think I know what's happening. I think these are the collision shapes of everything in the world just moving around right now. Okay, well, that was funny. Yeah, I think if we just restart the game, it'll look fine. Yeah. Huh. Never realized that was so big. Okay, so let's make this the proper size. This. And then restart. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, so now the box actually covers a character. And then if we turn off your, like, really dig into the world here. Overworld characters. I don't know which one's the mage. So let's just turn off the character sprite. Okay, there's the mage. Yeah. So there's their collision box now. That inner one. And the inner one is bigger. And so now it should be easier to get into fights. Okay, that let's submit that. I'll put that online. Yeah. Fixed player collision boxes. Should be easier to get into battles. And the mouse collision box isn't so big. All right, let's publish that. Oops, what am I doing? We gotta actually publish it first. Okay, so if you want to have larger collision boxes now by at least a little bit, before you refresh the page, the first thing you should do is press escape and save, and then refresh the game. You just have one auto attack and all stats affect that. Random's game is not yet, but it's basically adding cards to a board that trigger automatically on an interval. Interesting. Yeah. You have unleashed the cubes. Yeah. Why squares and not circles? Oh, you're saying just a radius check of circles would be faster? I thought the sprites would be more boxy than they were square, or than they were circular. But that's not necessarily true. I mean, ideally, we're just doing like a collision shape per sprite. Because like the rat takes up maybe only half of the sprite size anyway. Game has big potential. Looking forward to seeing the next iterations. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, look, maybe I'm being overly hopeful here, but the way I'm looking at this is if we read the summaries. So if I refresh this, give me a sec. Okay, so if we just look at this, I had fun playing the game. Like the majority of people did. And it was what, like 63% or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, majority of the people had fun. And that's with the bugs that exist and with the like weird way of playing and no tutorial and like people are confused about the controls and everything. If they're still having fun, even with all that, I feel like the core is there. And so this is very heartening to me because I'd gone through this whole process and I'd fully, like gotten a game ready and then people didn't really have fun with it. And so they're having fun when it's already super rough around the edges. And I have plans to fix those things. It's not, a lot of the things that people are saying are not like massive surprises to me. Like, hey, there's no music in the game. Like, yes, I know that. And I appreciate that feedback because that means that it's on people's radar. There are things, though, that are surprises to me. So things like, hey, what if we revamp the battle system to do this? What if, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of little things. So I think what we probably need to do is I think we need to prototype some of that and then maybe even release it as like a totally separate game just so that people don't get confused by the first one and ask what people think of that one. And then if it seems like those changes are in the right direction, then maybe we proceed with a final game. Be cool to be notified by those characters that aren't fully automated yet when they need a battle interaction. Yeah, I think we're just going to delete the manual interaction part of the game. So that essentially won't be a problem. Can you please review code? I don't know what the rest of that question even means. I mean, the review code part, I could potentially do, although not today. All right, now I know I'm very slowly going through this, but let's keep looking through this. Yeah, roguelite system. Wait, no, that I already looked through that one. Where's the other one? Where is the other one? Did I close it already? I think I closed it. Oh, no, here it is. No, that's it. All right, never mind. I don't know. I don't know what happened to it. All right, so let's go back to the feedback thing. Where's that? Oh, here it was. Yeah, misclicking when upgrading, yeah. But if there's still a manual option to press the attack at a certain time for extra damage, otherwise automatic base attack. I think if you're going to have a manual action, it should be something that requires a decision rather than a timing in this case. It's kind of interesting though, right? Like you click a button when a bar fills up at the right time and you'll do more damage or whatever. But I think that would get very mechanical for you, especially because a lot of these things would be on a, it's almost like a metronome, right? Every 2.5 seconds, your ability refreshes, and if you click it at the right time, you get whatever buff you might have gotten. Yeah, difficult with so many heroes, and also the other thing is like, okay, are you balancing boss fights around always getting like crits or something? So yeah, I'm not as inclined to do it. I think it works for games where you have one character or two characters, and then timing things is like that's a way of keeping the battle engaging. But yeah, I'm hoping in this game you have 6, 7, 8 characters, and they're all just kind of doing their own thing. And so even if you could time crits, you'd be doing it for like one set of characters. All right, yeah, let's keep looking through this. Love to see slow implementations of quality of life, like auto walking and maybe a taunt makes monsters more likely to path toward you, so you can idle level faster. I'd also like to see a global skill tree that applies to all characters. Yep. No idea why I should micromanage. That's totally true. More customization of skills and characters would be great. Maybe equipment. I'd also like a way to prioritize using certain skills over other ones. UI could work. Poison dagger feels like a rogue skill. Yeah, it was originally a rogue skill. The necromancer was originally a rogue, and I did not redesign poison dagger for necromancer. Anyway, more customization of skills and characters. This is the part that stands out to me here as being something that I wonder how we would exactly do this. Because equipment, items, I think that's a way of doing it. And I think the skill tree is kind of how I wanted it to work. So maybe I should think about that some more. Maybe think of how else you can customize a character. Some people are talking about items and equipment. I think the closest to a system that I like is a very small set of equipable items, say 1 to 2, that modify your character in some way. E.g. something like, I guess modify your character sort of like how skills do. E.g. slash has a 50% chance to crit. It's always relevant. Doesn't need to be micromanaged. Yeah. At that point, though, I wonder if they should just be in the skill tree. There should be different skills you can equip. It actually kind of makes me wonder, like, is there a way to get rid of respecs altogether? Maybe all of your skills are leveling up at a time, or you're choosing... I don't know. Yeah, I need to think about that some more. Where to play the game? Yeah, it's in the today command. Your player's manual controls a reward or upgrade rather than having them progress past it. Could try letting players select specific attacks some of the time or a number of times in a pool. I don't like the idea of manually controlling a battle. And I think that's what sort of led to this game getting created in the first place. And that's part of the reason why you progress past it so fast is I'm like, hey, remember when games did this? And now I'm like, oh no, now you could just auto battle. And I think part of, look, so much of this comes down to the core battle philosophy here, which I'll say again, and I'll hopefully just like copy paste it somewhere this time. So in a game where the difference between the baseline efficiency of battle and the ceiling is large, you'll want to optimize fights. For example, in typical idle games, optimal gameplay may be 1,000 times better than regular gameplay, in which case you certainly you save tons of time by playing optimally. In other games, there isn't such a large difference. E.g., even intentionally choosing the worst moves in Final Fantasy 1, battles may only go like 3 times slower. Or I guess I should say like 1/3 the speed of an optimal fight. In those cases, there's less of a desire to optimize. And then because this game is automated, it further lessens the desire to optimize unless the efficiency difference is huge. Or the time scale is long enough. Yeah, so this is how battles ended up the way that they are. And the reason I think this is so important to talk about is because, like, for example, we're having this discussion about manual controls. If you could, let's just say you click in a battle and it adds 10% damage for that whole battle, and that's all you had to do was click once. You still might not do it because like 10% damage might just not mean that much to you. And if I said, okay, you click once and you instantly kill all the enemies, you'd be like, okay, that's worth clicking for. But now we're getting into a different game genre altogether, and that we're essentially talking about like true idle games, which I want to avoid. So I think this is kind of what I'm getting at here, and I really, really want to make a video on this at some point. Yeah. Maybe as an example, say that if you literally only click a battle once, you get plus 10% damage. People still may not click at some point because it's just not a big enough reward for something that happens every 20 seconds. I found it odd that the cooldowns didn't completely reset. Yeah, that was intentional, except for the part that was unintentional is they were supposed to cool down while you were outside of battle. So most of the time you'd start a battle and they would be ready. But yeah, it doesn't work that way. But we might be revamping that entire system. And the more I think about it, the more I think it's at least worth testing out, even if it doesn't end up being a good system. I need to take a break, but when I get back, we'll come back and we'll look through this feedback that we have. So is it jump time? It's jump time. For those new to the stream, just type join in chat right now if you want to play. It's got to be Twitch chat, not YouTube. And then J and a number, and you'll jump. If you don't want to play, it's totally fine. I'll be back in a little bit. The game was delayed even after refreshing, because that's too bad. But yeah, it has to do with whatever happened in OBS earlier. That was insane. Yeah. Well, maybe we won't play Jump Royale on the next break. I don't have any dropped frames, but yeah, something went wrong. Close the game. All right, let's see. Couldn't see the point of changing spell or manually using a spell in combat once I've unlocked automatic spells. Couldn't get back, use points, so the game makes me not want to change the spell because I would lose the power of those points spent. If you tend to keep manual spells, maybe use a system Q command. Gives depth in combat and speeds things up for good players. Add mural collision. Oh, yeah. I know what they're talking about. The map. Yeah. Add an Elden Ring runes type of experience. Lose something on ground where you died. Respawn low health. You have to cross boards, hopefully without getting back into a fight. So you try not to die. Yeah, the lose something though is really tough in this game because what could you lose? Like the only thing you could lose is experience, I guess, and I don't like games where you lose experience. I feel like they're way too punishing. Being able to get it back afterward though is not as bad, I suppose. Bonus items for those who want to try to cheese. Neutral creep to guard them. Display always health bar if not 100%, even after fight. Yeah. This is something I definitely think should have been in the game, and I just didn't do it. Always display a health bar, even on the overworld. I'll just say display a health bar on the overworld. There we go. Hey, Coffee, welcome back. Forces you to calculate the trajectory for the next 5 jumps. What do you got? Resurrection sickness? Yeah, but that's just losing time, which technically you already should lose in the death system that I have planned. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Like the death penalty will just be lost time on that character. How about locking a random skill for a while, forcing you to play with 2 skills? That's interesting. I think there are a couple reasons that I'd steer away from that. One is that it might not be clear to you that happened. And 2 is that if you can't win any fights with only 2 skills, then it may as well be that we've just taken you out of this system for a while. And if you do lose a fight with 2 skills, does it lock another one? And then you only have 1 skill. And now you're forced to just wait anyway, but it's like in a worse. Yeah, anyway, I'm just not inclined to do it as much. I've been trying to steer more towards simple systems that accomplish the same thing. And in this case, the plan that I have is for, you just turn into a tombstone and there's like a timer above it. And after 15 seconds, you revive and you got full life. Less skills is good with a current random system. Yeah, so I'm already trying to picture the world that we're going to switch to. So right now, you have 3 abilities, and you have a turn cooldown, and you have ability cooldown. And when an ability is ready and it's your turn, when it's your turn, randomly choose a ready ability. So this is the current system. The proposed changes. Oh yeah, and there's manual control at the beginning. The proposed change is maybe 4 abilities. I'm not sure about that part. No turn cooldown. And abilities are used as soon as they're ready. Yeah. So once this system is in place, a lot of the things that we're talking about doesn't really make sense as much anymore. Yeah. Yeah, and this concept of like, getting rid of a skill or something, this does happen in some other games. Like there's something that's so powerful that you want to like just make it to the powerful thing. And as you said it, I thought of an example and then I just immediately lost it. I don't remember. Will it be available on Steam or something when it's done? Yeah, so I'm planning on releasing it on Steam and itch when it's done. And it would cost money. And so this is all part of, I'll link the today command. There's both a link to the game and there's a feedback form. To be honest, at this point, I feel like I probably have enough feedback for one, here are the main conclusions. One, this game is probably worth pursuing. Two, we need to make some core changes like the one that I described here, and I think it would alleviate a ton of problems. And three, people are somewhat frustrated by the bugs, the lack of content, the prototypeness of all of this. Can you scope the battle dialogue to the viewport when a fight starts? I could. I think the tough thing is I eventually want to have like 8 or 9 characters at once. And I don't know if you'd want 9 different battle windows showing up all at once. So I need to come up with some way of making that work. And I don't know what it would be yet. And the like, maybe this will work, maybe not, is what if you could pin 3 characters to the screen and you always saw those battles? And maybe this is a dumb idea. I don't know. But as an example here, like, turn this stuff off. Okay. Yeah, as an example, it's like we have these 3 characters here. If they get into a fight, maybe they'll still show up with their battles over here on the top of the screen, and maybe there's even dedicated space for them. But if any other character gets into a fight, you need to watch it play out in the world. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. What did you say about? That there's a kappa there? Did Leaf put that in? How did that get there? Oh, is it because of this? Your image put that there? It's pretty funny. Hey, Kermit. Welcome in. Although I missed your message by like 6 minutes, so sorry about that. All right. So what do we have here? Add a visual effect when the life of your hero is very low to give more emotion to the player. Yeah, I think this is good. All right. Sounds like a plan. Let's maybe cut out the millions of tabs I have open. All right, I like the ability to let the character automatically fight inside each room. Some kind of animation would be cool. Found the movement with mouse right click, but using arrow keys or WSD was a bit clunky. Locked camera or being able to actually move the character. Yeah, cool. I'm going to kind of try to speed through this a little bit because I think at this point I have seen a lot of classes of feedback and I'm totally cool with some of these and know that I need to do something about them. More goals along the way to get rewards and have something to work toward, some ideas, quests. Randomly spawn chests that give you something. Some chests could be defended by a hard monster. Team battles where you can fight the same opponent with multiple characters. Colored semi-transparent circle that shows text 0 out of 2. When you move 2 characters, that circle. Oh, this is a really interesting way of doing this. Oh man, I'm like totally taking this. Holy cow. This is fantastic. From someone's feedback. Yeah, wow. Super cool. Boss fight before you move to the next room. More user interaction. Currently the game progresses by just moving characters. Eventually I realized there's a sufficient amount of monsters to just stand still for battles. Yeah. Yeah, so okay, the something else to do in the game or something to steer toward more than just like the battles that happen, I think is a good idea. I consider something that makes movement a bit more interesting, or manual movement a bit more interesting. Maybe a treasure chest that spawns, or a quest or NPC or something. I'm not sure what it would be. Is it made in Unity? No, it's made in Godot. Welcome in, Basilov. Right now there's no real like okay. We have the skill point system for characters. Eventually we'll have the player-wide skills. So then there's nothing obvious that we could give you as a small reward that isn't just experience or a skill point. And so the things I could kind of think about are like temporary buffs, maybe permanent stat buffs, maybe, or even a persistent summon. But yeah, this is if you had items in a game, like items could just be a reward. You could say, oh, randomly generate an item or give you an item that's whatever, a sword or something like that. We don't have items in this game. I don't want to add items just to give you something to have a reward after a battle. Yeah, I don't dislike these ideas, although I think you always need to be careful with permanent stat buffs that you give out. Yeah. Per enemy type buffs, like do more damage to lizards or something. Abilities or new classes could be hidden in chests. Yeah, it could be how you unlock characters. I guess I'll just write all this stuff in here. Could be one of these. Cosmetics. Yeah, I think cosmetics matter for some people. I think in single player games they don't matter as much, especially not a game like this probably. And also I don't necessarily have the art for that. But I'd want some functional reward as well. I'm not sure what it would be. Defeating vampires gives you life steal for the next battle. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I was picturing something from a treasure chest. Yeah, that could be it if it were a quest or something that were given out. All right, well, I'll need to think about that some more. I want to still go through this feedback. Currently, game progresses by moving characters. Eventually, I realized sufficient amount. Yep. Leveling beyond 15 or slow. 15 is too slow. Fog of war to hide the rooms you haven't discovered yet. This keeps an element of surprise, especially when playing the game for the first time. It'd be exciting to reach the next room, not know what could be there. Also be considered a goal or reward at that point. Having 3 fights running at once means you cannot pay attention to all the fights. Level 17, I realize I don't know what differences any of the enemies have. You just start the fights to level up without interactions. Yeah. And hockey's a switch between characters. Oh, interesting. Clicking is hard. The clicking part people hadn't complained about, and I just made it smaller. This is a mobile app? No, this is not. Am I planning on for having a really challenging hard levels or enemies at any part? I'd planned on like, end game content or post game content being like a challenge mode, and someone suggested hardcore. Like, maybe something like that could work. So there's just kind of a vague plan. The way I look at it is if the game ends up being fun, I think it's pretty easy to add challenges to the game that you can make optional. But if the game isn't fun, then any challenges you have planned also aren't going to be fun, probably. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. Yeah, realizing that the enemies don't have differences. First of all, they don't. So this is a fair realization. But even once they have differences, like let's say they're casting different skills or something like that, um, you still they're still all just going to feel like, oh, I kill the enemies to win. Maybe there's a healer enemy that heals itself, but you're still just doing damage till it dies. Oh, that's how pretty much all RPGs work anyway. We'll have workshop support. If you use GD script, it should be very easy. I don't plan on using GD script, and I don't know where I would want to add workshop support. But I'm inclined to say no. I just don't think it's probably gonna. Yeah, I don't have any plans for what I would do with that. The other thing to consider too is, unless this game sells very well, the workshop support just isn't really going to matter. I want to pursue all of this totally from an MVP perspective of like what's the minimum viable product, and that's what led us to this prototype. So this prototype is like if I launched this as a game, you'd be like, whoa, this is I don't know why this is laggy so much when I get back to it. It must be something that happens when this is minimized. Anyway, if you looked at this game and you got this from Steam, you'd be like, there's a lot missing here. So I need to do quite a lot. getting this to be launched. Do I have a trailer? No. We started making this game 2.5 weeks ago. So everything you see in this game was made in less than 3 weeks. I did reuse sprites that already existed. But other than that, I made the music that's on the title screen. We made all the code. The concept of the game was made, I guess, in a couple extra days. But yeah, this is all as rapid prototyping as I could possibly do. It's been fun watching you put all this together. Wish I could do all the coding and listening to you and your community. It's always very impressive. Don't play a lot of idle games. This might be Trackly. I'm calling him out. My comments might not be worth a lot. You can totally ignore if you so choose. I was excited to start to level up and get new skills, but it did get to a point around level 12 where I started to lose interest. I know it's a prototype and a lot of this isn't there yet. Seeing cool new animations for new attacks, higher levels really help for me. Yeah, I think there will be attacks or at least projectiles or something kind of going on there. I like storylines as well, so having a reason to try to get higher levels and basically farm experience would keep me a little more interested. Yeah. I see. Yeah, the whole press escape to close the skill tree, I think, is one of the things that should go into here. Allow for pressing escape to close the skill tree. General modding. Yeah, and I think there are kind of two theories here. One is if a game was like only kind of fun, you could mod it to make it fun, and the other is if the game has a big community, you could mod it to add what people want. And if the game has a big enough community and people want stuff, and that means that it's sold well, which means then I could probably just add those sorts of things in myself. So it's not a concern right now, I guess, is all I would say. Because I think you shouldn't just rely on your game being successful. You should make sure it's successful and then do the stuff that would be based on that. Clicking anywhere but the skill tree, yeah. Maybe even make it a proper modal, and clicking outside of it would close it. Yeah, I recognize that's not the easiest right now. There's always this thing that I've been talking about for years now, which is how much polish do you need in a game to determine that it's fun? Because I think every little frustration adds up. And there are things that I'm happy that I even took the time to do. Because in a final game, you wouldn't even think twice. Like the skills button is green when you have a skill point. Like it's pretty obvious, but it's something I spent the tiniest amount of time doing here. And like, okay, that helps. That's a way that you can know that this is something you can interact with. But yeah, if I didn't do that, you'd be like, oh, how do I know that I have a skill point I can invest? And yeah, there'd be just one more frustration thrown on the pile. Okay, less choice from the beginning. Show more clearly which skill is selected and executed. Yeah, I think we're going to go this route. And then showing which skill is selected and executed. I think this will actually maybe be better once they're just automatically being used. Like if I get into a battle here, you see these skills fill up the bar. If they just automatically get used, I think it'd be obvious. And we could flash the button or something too. But yeah, that would let us get rid of this blue turn cooldown thing. I think fun is a skill that starts at 100 and you deduct from there. I don't exactly think so, because like imagine if you didn't have a game at all, then there's nothing to deduct and you'd be like, this is the most fun. But now imagine if I put Pong in front of you or something. Like Pong is fun for some people and for probably short amounts of time. So I think you have to build it up. Skill animations, more classes, multi-character battles, or allow another character joining an existing battle. You know, the multi-character battle thing is the thing a lot of people are talking about. I think for boss fights, I want to do it, but I just don't think I want to do it for any regular fight. Oh man, thinking about this. There are kind of ways that, like, all right, I'm just gonna think out loud. What if we allowed you to make parties of 2? Like there was some UI for this. I don't know. You could either form a party, you drag 2 characters on top of each other or something. What does that do for the game? And I feel like it means that what makes a character unique can be enhanced or maybe supplemented by another character. Like imagine you have a character that's really tanky and one that isn't really tanky. Well, the tanky character can make up for the non-tanky character's weakness, and that's what happens in pretty much all party-based games. Free Steam game, nothing. 1 million positive reviews. Flying off the shelves. Parties. So yeah. Is it a good thing to have? I for boss battles, you know what? I think it's probably fine for boss battles. Which, by the way, at that point, we would need to like completely revamp the game. If we ever allow this, everything needs to be coded with this in mind from the beginning. If we ever allow for multiple characters, we need to code this from the beginning. In fact, even the design of skills should maybe allow for this. Like the cleric may heal the entire party and just isn't expected to have a party most of the time. Also mess with the level of mobs in normal combat. Yeah, the balance is tough. The balance is especially tough when you have lots of combinations of things. And that's where I feel like I liked the idea of the characters being sort of isolated. It's a real game. Came out in January this year. What is it? A game about doing nothing. No, it does have overwhelmingly positive reviews. Is this literally the whole game? Oh, it's free. Okay, I was gonna say. I can't imagine people buying something like this and having so many positive reviews. Not in a million, though. That was my joke. So until it's exactly my joke, then I'm a hilarious person. All right, where we leave off of this. Tedious to walk back after you die because you dodge annoying low levels. Add fog of war. Let me swap characters easier. Tedious to click small portraits. Swap with a keybind or something. So for those who are wondering, you can press tab in the game and switch, but I know that's not what everybody wants. Hey, Kavya. Show your allocated skill points number in battle. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I don't know where you'd show them exactly, I guess. Because, like, the way that this works is you're allocating points in the mods of this ability. So, like, if I put a point here and a point here, oops, and a point here, do I have sweeping arc level 2, for example? And we would show it over this, I guess? I'm not sure. Force characters move around a bit. Yep. Very fun to play skill tree and automation. However, I'd like to be able to reset or change them. Yep. If you have 2 characters on top of each other and one gets into a battle, you want to move the other one while it's underneath. It's a bit awkward. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. Maybe minimize the battle on top of your selected character. Yeah, achievements, more abilities and skill points. Yeah. Yeah, I really got to think of I think the big questions that I have. So post prototype, big questions. How do I want the skill trees to work? Lots of ability choices and the option of equipping different ones, or just a bunch of different mods and more character classes as a result. What do you think of having the New Game Plus be unlocking simulation mode, making that into a competition of sorts? Maybe a leaderboard? I'm trying to think about this. I think I need to know more about what simulation mode means in this case, because the simulator that I made was to play out, yeah, 75 battles at once or something. Maybe that's what you're talking about. It literally just is a sandbox and you get to control the stats or something. But then it wouldn't be a new game plus so much as just like totally different game mode. Something I'm also wondering about here is if you can party up with other characters for boss battles, does it make you want that same thing for non-boss battles? I don't know, there's so many questions about this. I just don't like the idea of having parties of characters for all this stuff. And like bosses just shouldn't grant experience because that's, excuse me, another consideration. Another consideration with, okay, so I don't want parties all the time. UI to manage them, figuring out how experience should be shared, balancing around parties. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is pretty important. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. Helpers you can summon only during boss battles. The party in this case that we're talking about is being able to take multiple characters that you have, like the mage and the necromancer. And, you know, the suggestion earlier was, what if you had, you know, what if there was like, imagine this is a summoning circle and you put your one character here and one character here, and now they summon the boss and both of these characters are in the battle for it. So like that I think could work and doesn't have to be an intrusive UI or something. It's sort of built into the game world. And then you just get used to like, oh man, there are summoning circles. Okay, I'm gonna move 3 characters here. I think that could be pretty neat. Yeah, Laura. Thanks for resubbing. Like you say, I'm done leveling and all my characters will now take on the boss of the stage. All your characters? I was just thinking you'd take like 2 or maybe 3. Because all of this eventually needs some like special UI for just that battle that's playing out. Because imagine if you had 2 or 3 characters, instead of showing your 3 abilities here, we need to show like 6 or 9. Yeah. Maybe every now and then a thing pops up and when you click it, your closest hero gets a temporary buff. Yeah, that was sort of the treasure chest thing we were talking about earlier. And I think something like that could be done. I don't know if that's enough to make you feel like, oh, cool, now I have a reason to pay attention to my character wandering around. And I think it's got to be something more like that. If it is just something small, and then it may not be a good enough reason to control your character. You have to be big. Not made it yet, but is 50 the max level? There is no max level. But after you get to 55 or 56, you will need to fight 100 battles to level up. But then technically, even fighting the level 1 characters would level you up, I think. So hold the button and you follow it. Yeah, yeah. Someone else had suggested that too. And yeah, I think those sorts of things should be done if regular movement stays in the game like it is. Did I write this down over here? I think I did. Yeah. Being able to hold down right click to move the character would be nice. And I'll put yours there too. Oh, I'm not going to make different storylines per characters. If I make a storyline, it's going to be one storyline, and the characters you choose has no impact on it whatsoever. I just don't think the story is going to be a massive draw of this game. It'll be like a little bit more of a reason for you to play, but not like the main reason. All right, since its prototype balance was a bit of an issue, I don't see it as a big problem if further developed. be nice to be able to use the mouse to box in my character instead of needing a single click. Oh, drag a box around them, and yeah. And maybe even moving multiple characters that way. Having multiple characters selected could be a bit of a problem for some other interfaces, though. Although being able to draw a box to select one character is not a problem. Different world maps per character. We'll multiply development time by 1,000,000. Animation or some other form of visually showing ability use and winning a battle. Reallocating points to try different abilities. Yep. Yep. I'm on board with this stuff. This, I think, could be made better with just having maybe number keys to select your characters. In fact, this is something worth considering. Whoops. This is something worth considering when it comes to number of characters you can have. I want to write this in the questions thing. How many characters do we expect you to have at the end of the game? Like, what do we cap this at? And why do we cap it? Full RTS controls. You select these 3 characters and press Control 1 and form a group and then move them all at once. Yeah, there's certain enemies that move toward you to keep you on your toes. Yeah. I think that was something I was always planning on doing. Or, like, mostly always planning on doing. Am I adding puzzles? I don't think so. No, I don't think the game would really benefit from puzzles. Why would you want more than one? Oh, there is already an answer for that. There's going to be a player-wide skill tree. And imagine, even if I just do something like plus X% damage dealt in the skill tree, then it's like, okay, all your characters benefit from it. So the way you get points in this skill tree is by leveling up your characters. So maybe, let's say you hit, I don't know, a barrier in the grind and you're stuck at level 16 or something. Well, start a new character, level them up to like 8, and now you get an extra 5% damage or something. I'm just making up numbers, but yeah, that might help you get over that bump. Kind of hard to see the damage that the character is doing because of the size of the attack boxes, if that makes sense. The size of the attack boxes are, you can, oh man, stupid thing keeps like lagging. You can zoom in, which might make it a little bit easier. But yeah, if you're like fully zoomed out, there's probably not going to be an easy way to show that information. And of course, the other thing too is, I guess, battles will just end so fast that sometimes you can't really see it. I need to make the fonts sharper. All right, mostly missing a purpose. What am I farming for? I play another game where I can farm for hours. It's turn-based but not automated to unlock new spells, loot, or new equipment. Random ideas I would enjoy. Groups of enemies moving together instead of individual. Some smaller groups, some larger. Enemies move slower. It's easier to engage them. Also, the fights are not making me very excited. If the decision is to not make this fully idle, then it might be nice to make the combats a bit more interesting. Right now, I just spam spells at random and have no idea whether I'm going to lose or win the fight. Might be nice to have an inventory, be able to loot things, craft some new items, be clear how items improve spells, farm for new shiny stuff. Also, targets of spells seem random, so I'm in control, but not entirely. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're not sure what you're farming for. It is all just experience right now. Like, that's the only reason to engage in a fight. But I mean, even if it's items, I guess it's all equating to the same thing in the end, and you just have different routes of getting there. Like, you could sort of see this as you have a player, and then you have something, and then you have the end of the game. And everything is somehow getting you toward the end of the game, at least in a game like this. You don't have, random like side things or mini games. It's just the game. And so what I have is this barrier. This is equal to, I guess, leveling up. And I think what this person wants this to be is like leveling up plus items plus, I don't know, some other form of progression, essentially. Tab got killed? Any way of downloading the game? There is no way of downloading it, I think. But maybe through the itch app. If you download the itch app, I think you might be able to download it. I think it'd be fun to draw temporary boundaries around my character to box in or out certain enemies. I might not be understanding why you'd want to do that. Can you mute the music? You can right click the tab and go to mute site, but the music only plays on the title screen and the character select screen, and those should take like 5 seconds to get through. So if you just want to just get through those screens, and it'll go away. That's why I didn't add in a mute key or anything, because it plays for such a short time. And thanks, Faceless. Yeah, what am I farming for? This is a question that I think is tough to answer for a lot of different games because people have different reasons. Some people want to play for a storyline. Some people want to play for like feeling the sense of progression. Some people want to check out what happens in a quest or something. And I don't necessarily think that's exactly what this is getting at. It's not like, why am I farming for it? It's more like, what am I getting as I'm killing stuff? And yeah, the progression is very one-dimensional right now. So could there be another form of progression? Some other form of progression. The prototype only had experience, which led to skill points. And the final game should have a player-wide skill tree. Maybe people would appreciate something that's just visual, e.g. building a town or something like that. So it's not exactly functional, but it still shows that you're making progress. Maybe you complete zones and your goal is to conquer the world. I don't know. That could be interesting. Do I have to put 4 points in automation before I can do the rest? Yeah. There's a tiny bit of explanation underneath the game itself. So yeah, just this little bit. I played in tab uninterrupted until I unlocked each character. That was fuel enough for me. Yeah, I think that's fun too. I guess it's not exactly one-dimensional. I guess unlocking characters is there too. And unlocking characters, which unfortunately doesn't do anything in the prototype. Yeah, I like the idea of completing zones. Hey, Bolvar. This is what I was talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about still. It's kind of hard to see the damage that the character is doing because of the size of the attack box, if that makes sense. Oh, you're saying the life bar? The life bar is too small? Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah, this wasn't like, this is just the prototype. There was just supposed to be a way of seeing what's going on, and yeah, that life bar is very tiny. I think there are other ways we could do this in the future. Yeah. Ask for advice since I see you do mentoring. Yes, it's fine to ask for advice. I probably won't get like super in depth during this particular stream, although you could always, yeah, anyway, feel free to ask. I can still potentially answer. Zone mastery number that goes up with an exponentially increasing required number of kills. Doesn't have to provide any bonus. I like the idea of like conquering a zone, and it is a set number of kills maybe per zone. So maybe the first zone is 20 and maybe the second zone is 50 or something like that. But yeah, letting it keep going beyond that, I think is kind of interesting. And I'll copy paste what you said. Could just keep going up to keep track, but you complete the zone early on. Know the black part. What is cooldown for? The black part? This box around your character is the battle window. Maybe, are you playing this on mobile? Like what should happen is you get into a battle and then you see this, what you had zoomed in on is the top left of the battle window. But like this is the battle window. And so when you click an ability, it uses the ability on an enemy. Are you on mobile? I didn't even think it should work on mobile. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, as long as you understand what's going on now, I guess that's fine. Expand on the idea of idle combat and progression. I don't know what they mean there exactly. I'd like to have some kind of information progression. Right now, we see the whole game world and all monsters and final bosses. This somewhat reduces the willingness to explore. Feels mostly like a grind to a specific point, which you already have full information about. I'd love to have some sort of progression apart from stats only in the game. Yeah. A lot of these things, it's very hard to disseminate information to everybody. It's like I can say 100 times on stream today, hey, here are the plans for the game. And sometimes someone's going to pop in and be like, hey, I wasn't paying attention, or I wasn't there to even hear what you said. And so in this particular case, it's like the reason the whole world map is visible by default and only 7 zones is just because it's a prototype. Like in the future, how I think this would work is how a bunch of people have said this already, which is what if you had fog of war over all of these? So you can see the forest because you've been there, but you can't see this zone, you can't see this zone. And the one exception I'd probably make is maybe you can see the connections between zones. So you can tell that these two things are linked, but you don't know what's in it. And you can tell that these two are linked and that these two are linked. And so that way, if you wanted to get to here, you know how you could generally go in that direction. And even that's up for debate. But yeah, I think some kind of fog of war makes sense. I'm working on a new project lately, a website for learning the code. Find that a lot of websites try to teach programming topics, just feel so disconnected from the user, just a bunch of technical jargon. Want to feel like people are reading the articles and lessons. Feels like a one-on-one conversation. Any words of wisdom or perhaps books regarding pedagogy or writing and teaching in general? Oh man, okay, this is quite an involved topic. So one thing to start with is I think there's a reason why a lot of these sites end up this way. And for one, I think it's very important to understand people don't read things. Like at least not on a computer. Maybe if you're like in front of them or you're in front of a classroom or something, but just in general, people aren't going to read. And as a result, they're going to get upset at the thing that they were told to read because they're impatient. That's kind of what ends up happening. Like how many times have you probably seen someone's like, hey, I'm having an error. And they're like, what's the error message? And then they read it and they're like, oh, yeah, I never actually read the error message. It's like they don't even want to solve their own problems necessarily. So I think when it comes to learning, especially when there's a teacher or website, they sort of place some of the onus onto that teacher or website. And it leads to not having sort of personalized classes. And so a lot of people actually do want to learn by just reading reference material or digging deep, just getting their hands dirty. So I think what you'd probably need to do is come up with like figure out your target audience and then like mock something up. It doesn't need to be the full product and test your proposed product with them. And I've heard of people doing this even with literal sheets of paper. Like you put a sheet of paper in front of them and imagine it's for whatever, I don't know, like an Instagram app. And on that paper are some squares and you're like, okay, open a picture. And they actually like press their finger onto the paper and you learn from how they do things that way. I don't think people probably do this a lot or often, but I'm just saying you don't need to make some like really super high fidelity mock-up necessarily. Anyway, yeah, I think my best advice for building anything is always like get to an MVP pretty quickly and figure out, does it work? What do people like? And maybe carve it out with like one language, pick something, pick Python or C or whatever. And yeah, see if your target audience actually enjoys it. Very hard to right click to move. Yeah. I don't plan on making it very mobile friendly, at least not at first. Do you build the spells using object-oriented programming? I can show you a little bit about how this works. There's an ability class, and then from this, we get two different kinds of abilities. We have active ones, which are used in battle, and we have passive ones. And so then each ability, like Crush, for example, this is an active ability, and it has a use function, as do all active abilities. And so it figures out how to do everything in battle, and then it has a bunch of static functions for displaying tooltips. Reminds me of Shapes. Yeah, I don't think I've played that game. How do I move my character? Just waiting for an enemy to move into me to trigger a fight. I right click for that. Yeah. The instructions aren't like, I put a control section here, and yeah, right click is to move your character. You might want to check out the other ones too, but hopefully most of it is straightforward enough. Does every character eventually unlock every ability? Yes, but only in the prototype. That wasn't meant to be the plan. Shapes? Okay, yeah. I'll write this down. Shapes.io. Planning to find out there. I don't find they cover why you want to implement any of those. Yeah, I think you start to get into, this is essentially like what teaching programming would be in a classroom, where people could ask these questions, because not everyone will have these questions, and the people that do might need to be convinced in a very specific way. I see what you're saying now. Like I said, I think my advice still stands, which is like, somehow mock this up or somehow prototype this and get this in front of the people who you think could benefit from this. So someone who's interested in programming but doesn't take that, maybe, I don't know how to say this, like curriculum approach to this. Okay, we're going to cover this. Okay, here we're covering it now, and then you move on. I don't know, has more of the like conversational style approach. Okay, good. Glad to hear, Sarah. Yeah. People don't read chatter. How do I... this is the problem here, is that you can't play the game with the controls beneath it, and I didn't put it into the game, and I don't know how many people would read all the stuff beneath this. So I don't fault them for this, but like, I think a better example is in games, there are tutorials, and sometimes they're like, hey, double jump to get over this barrier. And people might just be like, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck at this barrier. And yeah, when you point them to the, hey, it says double jump, they're like, oh, okay. And yeah, sure, maybe you're confused on how do I double jump or something, but yeah, you can imagine sometimes there's the information on screen. No, Boulevard, that's totally fine. And yeah, I mean, you were very polite about it too. So yeah, I wish you luck, really. I think these are the sorts of things that people do get into a status quo because it works for everybody else. And so then you start to consider, well, is it actually working? How many people are being turned away from programming because they don't have these questions answered? And, you know, maybe this is a meme, I don't know, but a lot of times in school, people would say like, what do I need this math for? Like, what am I ever going to use this? And I think that's like a bad way to look at learning to begin with. Well, at least in school, because you're forced to be in class anyway. It's not like you choose that you want to do math. You just have to learn math, so you might as well learn it. But I think every skill can be interconnected to other skills in ways that are hard to articulate. Is it normal to be able to go outside of the level? Yeah, that's just something I never bothered coding. Yeah. Does it have any unit or integration test, or really just, or we just test really run the game? Godot doesn't have that facility as far as I know, and it doesn't exactly need it. There's a way of writing unit tests, but I don't think Godot gives you a unit test framework. I think it's just there's a way to like run headless or something. I haven't looked too much into that. Intro screen seems a little bland where you start to load the game. Yeah, I cannot stress this enough. Many decisions were made just for the sake of getting a prototype out the door. So like, if you downloaded a game from Steam and it looked like this, I'd say, yep, that's like, you should have put some amount of time in it, showing a logo or some characters or some movement or the game world or anything, right? But guess how long this took? And guess how long it would have taken to like make a logo or something. So yeah, that's why we have what we have. Then stumped what to do. Yeah. Yeah, and it's frustrating to see, right? But yeah, it kind of makes sense. If you've been burned by pop-ups that were not helpful, like imagine a pop-up that popped up and said something like error, whatever, and then had some like code after it. You'd be like, what am I supposed to do with this? And nowadays, people have enough awareness not to do something like this. And yet I still, by the way, was playing like I said, Diablo 4 the other day, and I got some error message. It was super long. It was like BLZ 00000 whatever 1389. And I was like, why didn't they just make a simple error code for this? Like, why do they have a bunch of zeros? And thankfully, it got auto-completed in the search engine easily enough. But yeah, in the 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of prompts did have something like this, like error, failed to connect, and it was not actionable, and you did just dismiss it because there was nothing else you could do, and there was no searching for whatever went wrong. So yeah, things have changed a lot over the years, and some people still have those behaviors ingrained of why read a pop-up? It's never going to have helpful information. In school, I said, what am I going to use trig for? And then went into game dev. I think your math teacher cursed you. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to try this again. I'm going to take another break, and it might be super laggy. So let's see. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Again, you can type join to join this. It might be very delayed because I had some problem earlier with my stream software. So feel free to try to join, but given that no one has already joined and it's already showing me 30 seconds, that probably means everyone's going to be very lagged. I'll be back in a little bit. Hey, everybody. Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen this, you can just type join to join. So there I am. And like J15 jumps up into the right. Yeah, I think that's the last time we'll be playing with tons of lag. Hopefully it's just fixed by next stream. Close the game. Now let's finish looking through this. Yeah, so Fog of War, I think enough people have commented on it. And I think I had this written down in the original design. Did I? Map is split into regions. Regions are darkened on the map if you haven't been to them. Yeah, I hadn't done that. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Flesh out most things beyond cosmetics. I'd like this to be able to run and do stuff without me being active. Whoa, what just happened? Oh, I think people are responding as I'm looking at this. Where did I leave off? There it is. Okay, let's just copy paste this. Okay, beyond cosmetics, I'd like to be able to run. I'd like this to be able to run and do stuff without me being active. My little character can move within the zoom maybe, so that I could just have this open on a second monitor. The zooming in and out on trackpad is a bit too sensitive, resulting in it being... I keep zooming in and out every time I try and move my character too. Why no keys for movement or hotkeys to select a character? Action charge ups only refilling based on the blue bar and then needing to do another action confused me. Bit confused by lack of auto attack. For some reason, I assumed it was an idle thing. Yeah, I got to get away from the idle thing. I think that's part of this. I'd like to be able to run and do stuff without it being active. I think this will be similar, but I don't think it'll be like that exactly. Or, well, I don't think it'll be that. I don't think it'll be an idle game. I think there'll still be some interaction you do. Okay, but anyway, yeah, the movement and everything, I think is definitely something we can work on. Also, you know what's going to be kind of interesting? Like, I'm not inclined to fix any of these people's problems in the current prototype because I'm going to be throwing away all the code. But once we have a prototype that's shareable, like maybe another 2 months from now or something, then people can provide feedback and I can just fix it. And then future people should never provide that feedback again. Like, oh, hey, I can't select a character of 1 to 9. Okay, cool. And I go and do it. And now the next person who plays it is like, oh, there's a hotkey to select a character. Okay, that's nice. So that's the unfortunate part here is we're not really building on this prototype. We're going to just wipe it all out. And yeah, like I said, in maybe a couple months, we get another playable version. Sounds like you have a lot of great ideation to improve this concept. Yeah. And so for those who hadn't heard me say this, our plan is essentially like process all of this information and then come up with a new design and then form a team and then build it. And none of this is easy. Maybe this first part is easy a little bit, but like none of this is easy. Yeah. Why a total wipe? So we coded this in GDScript and I don't want to use GDScript anymore, but we had to use this for the web export property of it. So yeah, in the future, I'm going to switch to C#, which doesn't actually mean we need to completely wipe it all out, but I want to rebuild the code in a proper way when I do that. There are so many things I just threw into a file. Like the battle window code is 450 lines long. And yeah, there's a lot of just dumping grounds for code. And where can you try? Yeah, check out the command that Darkstorm linked in. Okay. When clicking attacks, I found the details of the attack to be unnecessary after the first read. Maybe some way to toggle seeing that. Maybe one of those eye things like at the bottom corner. Yeah, that could be kind of interesting. Oh, I think it misheard me. Or maybe I said that. I don't know. When hovering over abilities in battle. Yeah. All right, balancing is a priority number 1. Currently it's random and feels weird. UI improvements, definitely. FE, I don't know what that means. I want to see how much experience I need to get to the next level. Would be awesome to see how much experience I'd earn for killing a particular monster. Yeah, I think this is doable. The experience when you kill a monster, I think knowing how much it would be is maybe a little bit tough because it's based on your selected character. But maybe we could tell you their like base experience amount, which is not even how the game works right now, by the way. What's the main reason for switching from GDScript, just out of curiosity? I wrote a little bit about this, not that you'd have access to this here, but you can read it off the screen. I feel like there are a lot of annoyances from using VS Code with it, and I want to use VS Code. And then there are some annoyances with the language itself. There aren't proper generics. Yeah, I'll write it this way. There are some things I don't like about the language itself. What were some of the other things I didn't like? I don't like using spaces and tabs to control flow, but maybe that's a VS Code problem as well, since I would sometimes paste code, or maybe Copilot would, and it would have incorrect white space. All right, loot/equipment system for characters, prestige system, more fine tuning of automation to target certain level monsters or rooms, maybe additional resources to collect from different monsters or upgrades. Yeah, so I think a prestige system is what people expect from an idle game. You know, I'm seeing enough people talk about loot, and I'm like 99% sure I don't want to do a traditional item system. So if items were ever in the game, they would be something that might as well just not be even phrased as items. Like imagine you get something like power orb. It's like, okay, you could kind of call that an item, I guess. And then when you apply it to a character, you have some slot you put it in. And you can just choose what slot it's in. And if it's in the slot that says like more power or more defense or more speed or something like that, then that's like what the item system would be in this game. So I don't ever want to do something where it's like you got rusty sword and now you got copper sword and now you got, diamond sword or something like that. And you just keep getting all these like 17 different sword types and they only differ in their stats a little bit. And now you have to determine which one's better than this one. And at that point, there's a lot of like micromanagement of the loot system for no major gain. Literally had to rely on test scenes, sort of like what you did with your simulations. Very fine set of Godot's API you can reference from tests. But you managed to get something working in C#. So I'm hoping that at least we can get unit tests running there. The Borderlands way of doing things? I played Borderlands a little bit, but I don't remember. Oh, no. Borderlands is like Diablo 2 with guns, right? Yeah, so that's very loot heavy. But by the way, that's like the point of those games. I don't think loot heavy games are a problem. It's just you've got to go into that expecting that to be the case. Like if you play a game like Diablo 2 and you start looking at items, like Diablo 2 items, this would be overwhelming to lots of people. Yeah, like if you've played the game, and this is probably going to be a very blurry picture. Yeah, it is. But if you played the game, you can look at this and parse pretty quickly, like, is this a good weapon or not? And if you haven't played the game, you'd be like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? How much does level 9 Nova do? Like, there's a lot of stuff that just wouldn't be clear to you, and that's the fun of a Diablo type of game, or part of the fun at least. It'll hit with some folks and miss with others. Yeah, but okay, so that's true if you make a loot system. Technically, I guess the absence of a loot system, you could still kind of call a loot system, but I feel like this is something I've always found hard to grapple with. And I think I have the perfect example, but maybe not. Mobile games typically have something like a login calendar where Monday you get whatever, +5 gems. And on Tuesday you get +10 gems. And it all culminates in something happening where, I don't know, maybe on Saturday you get like 10 premium currency. I'm making things up here, of course, but like you've probably seen these if you played a mobile game. I made Botland years ago, and when I released it, people were like, why aren't you doing a login calendar or something like that? And this just broke my brain because I was like, these are not rewards. They're psychological hooks to keep you in the game, and they balance their game around you getting an extra, whatever, 50 gems per week. So why not just have the things give you more gems per whatever battle you do or something? But people expect it, and enough people ask me about it where I feel like I almost had to do it just because people are expecting it. And if it's not there, they're like, well, another game did this. And unfortunately, that does play into how you receive a game. So if you make an RPG and you have no item system, and that's not somehow core to your game where you're like, look, it's the first RPG with no item system, people are going to be like, why isn't there an item system? And I'm not trying to say that's the only reason this is happening. I recognize there are other pulls to wanting an item system, which is there's no real progression outside of experience in this game. But I don't want to have like fully designed this game and then still have people be like, well, it needs loot. Like other games have loot. And like I said, I don't think that's why this is happening here, but I think that is a very real possibility in the future. Such a simple RNG. Wow. Yeah. So many useless items to wade through. Yeah, and the since you don't like those games, you probably haven't seen what newer games have done with that. They start making loot filters where you don't even see the items on the ground that you would never want. And so then it becomes like how good is your loot filter? Like how do you make sure you're seeing valuable items and items that'll matter to you too? Yeah, later in the game you have 6 to 10 when you know the game. Yeah. And again, that's for a very like specific style of game, I think. Don't want to brag, but it took a fair amount of time. Well. I like your level 2 mage that you have. I know that's not the point of the screenshot. Oh, also that arrow didn't show up. I didn't realize. I really want to heal. Yeah, you do heal after fights, but it's somewhat slow. Anyway, good job, Mike. You did it. You killed the boss. I think for people to even want to get to killing the boss, that means that it was good enough. All right, we got to keep looking through this. I want to make sure we've gotten through enough of these things. All right, sense of strategy to engage with. It's very unclear what the intended challenges are going to be from the prototype. Is this a pure leveling grind with world exploration? Is there gear or items that will impact the gameplay? Are we building efficient automated sequences, or is it all about a story? Would like to see this grow beyond a game engine and start to show the colors of what game aspect or direction the player will be expected to interact with. Yeah, and I think some amount of story here will help set you in the right direction, but I think I kind of want to make this somehow like the story is, yeah, conquer the world. You are I don't know. Pick any story. I'm just going to make something up. You're upset with how the current kingdom is handling things, so you're going to go show them. You're going to prove that you can conquer enemies in every single area of the game. And when you do this, you get a little crown or check mark or trophy for every region, and then you become the king or queen or whatever. Something like that can at least give you a push in the right direction. And I think there are other engagement points throughout where you say something like, I don't know, people are starting to respect it. Wow, you got your own castle, and hey, you eat grapes with your dinner. Multi-character feature had no appeal for me. Yeah. It has no appeal outside of, do you have fun doing it? Because there's no reward in the game. So yeah, that definitely needs to change between different characters. Otherwise it can just be ignored. Yeah, so I think two things are going to steer you toward doing this in the future. One is going to be a player-wide skill tree where you level it up by getting character levels. So just like how you get 1 point per level now, you'll get 1 character point per level or something, or player-wide point. I mean, and you have a player-wide skill tree. And the second thing is we might do multiplayer boss battles. Sorry, not multiplayer, multi-character boss battles. Like you need to engage this boss with 2 characters in the arena or something. Managing 3 fights at a time manually, but I did want an escape or heal power. Once automated, I spent my time moving characters away from higher level enemies. Yeah, I think the manual control is actually going to go away completely. So if that's what you had fun with, I'm sorry to say, I'll be pulling the rug out from under you. But that's the thing I want to prototype next. We'll probably do this next week. I'm not saying I'm ending the stream now, but next week, I think what we're going to test is a new ability system. We're going to get rid of player turns. We're going to get rid of manual control. And we're just going to have abilities be used as soon as they're off cooldown. And I think this would make the game so much easier to understand. And I think for that reason alone, it's potentially worth doing. But it will break balance. So I'm probably not going to try balancing it too much. Could I? Maybe I could just lower the power of every ability by like 1/3 or 2/3. Excuse me. Yeah, I am gonna think about that some more. What did I say that thing about conquering regions? I think I wrote it with complete in quotation marks. Yeah. Yeah. I like this idea of building a castle or conquering the world. I know you don't want to add equipment to the game, but would on-use items be a compromise? Potions could be interesting. Yeah, that's what I had done for Ophog, and I didn't like how this turned out because okay, so this fully heals a target unit. You would enter one of these arenas, right? You'd place a unit down, and now it would move along. It'd move along a path. Okay, got into a fight, and so now I had to click use and then like click my character, and it just became I don't know. It was like kind of a drag to set this up and to use it. So yeah, if I did any sort of buffs, temporary buffs like that, attack up or defense up, it'd probably be like there's a treasure chest on the map, and if you walk onto it, you get a buff. So that way it's not which unit do I use this on? Do I save this? Do I use this now? The decision is like, do I go out of my way to get that thing or not? And I think that would be a little bit better. And I could see that happening. You'd not want to use the most powerful ability to finish off low health enemies, right? You'd use two lower ones. Wait, let me read this on screen. Two lower ones so you could roll into the next fight with the biggest area attack. I think that's why my auto characters are dying more often. Right. So right now, yeah, when your characters are randomly choosing abilities, they might choose, let's say, Boulder if you're a mage. They might choose their powerful area of effect thing when the enemy's just about to die, and there's nothing you can do about it right now. What I'm saying in the future would be that as soon as the attack is off cooldown and gets used, which means that same thing can still happen and actually like will now happen, but at least you'll understand when this stuff is going to get used. And so if you're like, oh, darn it, I just used my most powerful ability, then maybe you go into a battle that is against lower level enemies or something. So at least that way, I think there can be a little bit more predictability of what's happening. Being like you're a commander who can recruit the best potential talent, leveling up the characters realizes that talent. I think I see what you're saying, like a justification for the player wide skill tree, maybe? Or are you talking about the storyline? Okay, weight ability usage by skill points and ability. On Necromancer, I maxed out both summon skeletons. Feels like it barely gets used, which feels bad. Yeah, also this one in particular, it's on a 20-second cooldown, and if you use it right before the end of the fight, then your skeleton goes away. Harder than it should be to manually connect with an enemy. Increase hitbox or allow the target player to then follow until the battle starts. A target, then character follows. Yeah. User interaction on auto is in the choosing of which battle to go for. Which battle, which doesn't really matter too much right now, and then also which skills you've unlocked for your character. So if I click the skill tree here, like I can pick which things I want to invest in. And right now there are only 2 choices per skill, but imagine in the future maybe there are more skills or more things to invest in. And also you can customize which abilities you have. So if you're like, you know what, Boulder's a really bad ability, then just equip something else over here. And now your mage has, what character I have selected? I don't even know what character I selected. Oh, I don't have any selected. Oh, I clicked the mage, but it didn't select it. Okay, yeah. So now my mage has summon skeleton. So like, I feel like equipping this is probably going to be important. Won't be sold on just leveling up mods for abilities and will want some customization. Yeah. Explain the automation since RPGs don't typically have it. Oh, I see. Even saying that you need to explain the automation, I see. Yeah. After 1 hour plus of playing it, I would not call this a prototype yet because without walls and object collisions, it simply gives you the wrong impression of how avoiding and engaging enemies works. I see what you're saying. I don't really consider that crucial for the prototype. I consider it pretty important for the final game. I think part of it is like how much of your imagination do you have to use to fill in the blanks for what's missing? And like my character shouldn't be able to walk on top of this well is not such a big leap in your imagination as like, now imagine if there were battles playing out. And if I just walked onto the rat and I'm like, yeah, just imagine a window pops up and you get your ability choices. Like that's way harder to imagine than just seeing it. So yeah, saying, oh yeah, you won't be able to do this eventually, I think isn't so bad. And I recognize that, yes, it has a major impact on gameplay. You're like, oh, there's an enemy right next to me. I'm just going to walk outside the boundary of the map and I'll avoid it. But I think it's easy enough to imagine, what if I just didn't ever do that? You know, if I only clicked here, for example. There won't be an end to the game, right? You just keep leveling. No. This is not like a typical idle game, and I'm probably going to just remove idle from the title completely. That's the biggest question, is what's the new title of the game? What's the new title of the game? I assume there will be resistances. Yeah. There should be. Although I don't think you'll probably change your skills too much based on the enemies you fight. I think it'll be more that you fight different enemies. And so if you encounter an area where, I don't know, for whatever reason, like the mage is really bad, then you'll just come to that area with your warrior. It'll make it, yeah, if you do have different abilities, then it downplays the concept of needing different characters for different zones. Forfeit Ascendants. All right, let's keep reading. I think green stroke on a currently selected character is too subtle. Maybe a top left of the screen portrait shows the numbers and bars. Yeah. Yep. Need stronger identity than my character has died. Took me too long. Yeah, this should happen too with the tombstone system. On death, consider spawning one zone down level-wise. Yep. Yeah, a lot of these, this is why I'm saying I think there's only so much I need to read through feedback. I think I've heard quite a lot about things that I know that I want to fix. So the ideal thing you would do in this scenario is you would go fix those things and then say, okay, now check it out again. And now you get a whole new wave of feedback that's ideally completely different from what you've already heard. Yeah, not character relative. Finding myself doing a lot to participate in the battles. I think this becomes especially important when you have 3 characters. Yeah, I don't know yet how we're going to do this. Because imagine you have 10 characters. You probably don't want to see all 10 battles on screen at once. Maybe, you know how this could maybe work? I just thought about this. Maybe the battles that you see are always in the order of your characters over here, and you can just reorder these. And that way, if you're interested in seeing all your mages' battles, just put it on the top of your list. And then you see a dedicated UI for battling. Excuse me. And maybe it's scrollable. That could work. How do we show battles? Idea. What if there's a dedicated area for battles that is scrollable? Yeah, and it always is in the order of your characters in the quick info section, and you can rearrange the characters in quick info to easily see the battles that you're interested in. When a battle isn't happening, you can see the character that would get in the fight. So like we have like warrior, battle, placeholder. Something like that. Is damage different for each attack? Each attack should show what it does, so you can just see if they're different. Like just hover over slash, for example. It says deals 120, and this one says deals 70. So if those numbers are different, then yeah, they're different. Got a little exclamation mark that expands or collapses the view of the battle. Yeah, it comes down to how fast do battles play out. And I guess there's kind of another thing here. What if people don't want to look at battles and they just, their characters, they're just looking at their life bars, basically. I feel like I want battles to be shown to you somehow without a way of hiding them completely. Okay, either more active gameplay or a real idle game. It's currently somewhat in between. This was intentional. And this is why I said, what improvements would you want to see and why? Because I want to know why they find this to be problematic. Yeah. I think there needs to be more of an explanation for how for the character to move and better explanation on how to attack and make damage. Yeah. I like a tutorial or something. Totally. Core is a bit unclear. At first, I'm directly controlling a hero. I assume this is what the game is about. Surprised to get a second character. Start of the game is too different from the rest of it. Yeah, I think we're just going to iron all this out and remove the start of the game flow that we have right now. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for playing. Thanks for checking it out. Hope you follow the development of the game. I can see how this could be fun. At the moment, I was mostly confused. This is going to a mass production kind of thing where you have many heroes and sort of automate how they move and level up. So less control of individual heroes and more crowd control. Maybe there could be a mage factory that spawns mages after a while. That's kind of an interesting idea. And at some point, I thought of something like this, but I thought automating it would be pretty frustrating. But yeah, imagine this factory just pumping out mages into the world and they all get into battles and you're telling them how to level up on their own. But I think it's going to be something, again, sort of in the middle. It's like you wouldn't be able to control 9 characters at once in a regular game. So maybe you get 9 characters here, but you're not going to get like 900 characters. Other direction I could see is that I control 1 hero, and when a second joins, we become a party. Maybe max of 5 heroes. To make more sense. Right now, I can't imagine how difficult it'd be to control 15. Yeah, I do want there to be more automation for the characters moving around the world. Yes, like an RTS. I like the idea of kind of bending the genre here a little bit. So it starts as a turn-based RPG, and it'd be manually controlled. And we're not doing this anymore, but this was at least the idea. Then it was an automatically controlled turn-based RPG. And then, yeah, what if it turned into an RTS where what's really happening is now all these characters that you mastered are going into battle against another set of characters. I don't know. While attacking, are you stuck in a certain position or can you move? You are, if you're in a battle, you're on the overworld, your character is then stuck in that position, yeah. Another game I want to mention is Crystal Chronicles, My Life as a King. I played Crystal Chronicles. I didn't ever know there was another one of these. Also, I don't remember anything about Crystal Chronicles, so even as the person we're talking about this, I wouldn't know. What is this? An installment of Crystal Chronicles, a country building simulation which follows King Leo rebuilding his father's kingdom from the ground up. Huh. Oh yeah, there you have heroes that fight, but you're only in control of building a village with a weaponsmith, etc. Then the heroes use them automatically to have a better chance. This is like a Kairosoft game I played called Dungeon Village. Yeah. Yeah. What does the automation skill do? Every level is 25% higher chance to automatically take action in battle, to the point where when it's maxed out, you no longer have any influence over the fight directly. You can only control the skills you level up and which ones are equipped. Could there be a way to move post-prototype in battle? In battle? No. I don't want movement to matter in battle. That's not a thing I want to do. I feel like there are certain things that would just get tedious like super quickly. And actually, one of the things that people have already said is sort of tedious about this game is just having to move around all the time to control how you get into fights. Like, that wasn't the plan for the prototype. I just left it here. But yeah, eventually, imagine that I'm not touching my mouse at all. My character would just be moving just kind of randomly. And maybe there'd be something where it's like, oh, it spots an enemy and it goes in and attacks it. So yeah, that's how this should work eventually. If you had to move in battle as well, I just don't think that would do anything good for the game. What do you think of a zone at the later stages of the game that seals 2 characters and allows you to have 1 character at a time, and you can switch them on a timer based base if you want. Basically, more of zones attributes on top of enemies suited for certain characters. I might not be understanding this suggestion. Let me take a look at this again. Yeah, I don't think I understand this. I know what RuneScape is. I've never played RuneScape though. Okay, you should be able to intercept the pathing of an enemy to start an engagement. I find myself chasing enemies around the map a lot. Sweeping arc seems extremely strong in the early levels. 0 skill points available, but it looks as though I can upgrade abilities, which I can't. Should probably find some way to center the camera on the battle box pop-up. Doesn't show when in battle. Yeah, okay. So a lot of these things I think should already be kind of noted down. Monster hunting, temporary buffs for defeating X amount of certain monsters, bigger areas. Bigger areas, actually. Okay, so I kind of wanted the areas to stay pretty small. And part of the reason for that was so that you could see where your characters are without having to zoom out to, like, you know, the entire map. I mean, imagine a world map of kind of any other game where you have like proper, well fleshed out zones. Like, I like this aesthetic for the game. I like that it's almost like a board game appearance. Yeah. So I don't know if I would do bigger zones. You could make them feel bigger by making the characters move slower. Grid movement, not pixel perfect. Grid movement's interesting. I think what I usually like is a combination of them if I'm ever going to do just grid movement. Like, okay, this tile cannot be stepped on at all, and your characters move around it, but they don't just go like teleport, 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 teleport. They move smoothly between the different tiles that they're on. But choosing the next zone was part of the strategy of the game. I mean, that is sort of supposed to be part of the strategy. I haven't like fully fleshed this out. This was essentially meant to be the tutorial zone. And I guess each door could have like a, maybe hovering over a door would show you what you need to do to unlock it. And in this case, it would just say reach level 5. And in this case, it might say like kill 5 lizards or something like that. I'm going to write that down because people already kind of talked about quests. What if each door portal in a zone had opening requirements that showed on hover? E.g., the first door could say make it to level 5. The next could say kill 5 lizard men. The next could, I don't know, say fetch the purple jar. Yeah, Forager did something like that. I didn't exactly like how Forager did it, but I think Forager had some like kind of weird balance problem. I meant each zone has its own lore and traps or rules for the combat. Maybe one seals magic attack in the zone and one allows. Oh, I see. Interesting. I was thinking of having it be that the enemies kind of did that for you. So maybe an enemy can cast something that says disables your leftmost skill. Which I should probably write that down. That's a pretty interesting idea. Could have an enemy debuff you and in a way that disables your leftmost skill, for example. Yeah. Have you seen Stone Shard? No, I have not. At least I don't think so. Stone Shard is a challenging turn-based RPG set in an open world. Experience the unforgiving life of a medieval mercenary, travel across the war-torn kingdom, fulfill contracts. Huh. Sold a lot, but it's got mixed reviews right now. Oh, it's an early access, I guess. Huh. Gets very boring due to lack of content and almost empty map. Interesting. Get to choose what's after the door. Yeah, I see what you're saying, because that's what Forager, well, sort of what Forager did, right? I think every zone you unlocked was actually the same as everybody else's map. But getting to choose what's after the door means that you need to be informed enough about the choices you're making. I think I'd like it to be more straightforward. And in this case, it's like, I think there's going to be enough complexity already as it is, to the point where let's cut down where we can. Feel a lot more claustrophobic when we can no longer go through walls. Will feel more claustrophobic. Yeah. And maybe, I mean, one way to kind of not have that be the case as much is like the default zoom is something like this. And now they look a little bit bigger almost, because you're like, oh, my character has many character lengths it can go before it's at the end of it. So yeah, not totally sure yet. What language am I using? I'm using GDScript for this, but I'm going to use C# for the final game. Heroes are fully automated. You can join them in a team. Maybe the last boss can only kill a team of 9 heroes. I don't think I want teams to have too many characters in them. But yeah, I like the idea of having a couple different characters join a battle. I see Monadic Bind, yeah. Yeah, plus everyone keeps talking about having characters join forces, so yeah, give the people what they want to some extent, I guess. The way I think I'm going to do this is what someone suggested in the game, which is, where's a good example of this? I might have already put one of these things down somewhere. All right, imagine this. So this tile is a purple tile. It's got like a bowling ball looking thing on it. Imagine that there are 2 of these. There's one here and there's one here. And you just learn somehow, maybe the game just tells you that, hey, when you put characters on both these tiles, you will lock them into a boss battle. And so that's how I plan on doing that, like, party system, is it's just meant for bosses. And it's always when you see these kinds of tiles is when you do this. Hey, Neochromer. That was my suggestion, the grid movement. And yeah, I meant the smooth movement, but only in the cardinal directions like you had in Botland. Yeah, I think it would probably make things a little bit easier. I mean, especially if you're doing grid-based things. Well, actually, I don't know. Is, like, what's the reason to not have you just kind of smoothly move your characters? I guess because then you have to, like... No, I don't know. I guess it depends on the graphics we end up using. But I'll write to consider that, because I think that's fine. Should we consider smooth movement, but over a grid like we did in Botland? That would pretty much remove the need for like specialized colliders on enemies. They could always just take the full tile. I think pinball-like or slippery movement, trying to evade enemies, bouncing around these rooms could be fun. Actually, I guess this could do kind of interesting things if you have, well, you don't need grid movement for this, but I was gonna say you have like guards blocking a door and you need to beat enough of them. Actually, that's a pretty cool idea just to have in general. Like there's one zone where the door is unlocked to begin with, but you need to kill 9 enemies to get through. A zone where there are, say, 3 enemies in a line and they respawn on a long timer, but the door beyond them is open by default. Maybe just beyond the line of enemies, there's a switch that prevents those enemies from ever respawning again. Button platforms that open the boss room door and you force those characters to walk into the room and start the battle. Yeah, I was thinking about it more like summoning circles, I guess. Like you stand on those purple circles and it summons the boss between the two, and then your characters just get into a battle immediately. And if you lose, in fact, that's probably how I'm gonna do this. Where did I write that down? Oh, here, yeah. Wait, no, not there. Darn it, where did I put it? Under here. So this is a great idea. They could be summoning circles. And if you have characters on them, then the boss is summoned immediately into a battle. If you lose that fight, the boss despawns. Yeah. Is it by design that you get 250 experience by killing? Yeah. The balance is not fleshed out. In fact, Neochroma, it's probably important to say this for everything that you were about to see. All of this was done for a prototype. So it's just to figure out, like, is the game worth pursuing? And I think we've determined that the game is worth pursuing. And yeah, there's some tough questions. I actually have an idea here. Idea of maybe there's a boss that when you lose to it, it spawns a bunch of aggroing snakes in the zone so that it's harder to repeat the fight. Bosses are optional. I don't think bosses would be optional, or I guess it depends on how you're looking at this. But like, imagine that this door says, kill the boss of this region. And right next to it, you see 2 summoning circles. So you stand on the summoning circles and you fight the boss. And it's like, if you want to make it past this room, then you need to kill the boss. And so in that sense, it's optional if you don't need to be past that room. But I think the sake of the game would be conquering the world. And actually, something that's kind of interesting here is you could start characters in different spots in the world. Like, there could be multiple starting zones. I'm going to write that down too. There could be multiple starting zones. And different characters spawn in different starting zones. Yeah. Like the idea of having spots where you position your characters. Yeah. I like that too. Oh man. I just can't help but think I'm excited by all this, but the amount of work it's going to take to even get to the point where we have a new GitHub repo. You might think it's as simple as going to GitHub and clicking this little plus button, but no, you are painfully wrong. There's a lot that we need to do before that. All right, let's keep reading. Icon next to skills would be better indicator of having points. Yep, I agree. Skills as icons, no cooldown bar. They get grayed out with a radial timer. Yeah, I think this is another thing worth considering. And having icons means that we need that artwork, but maybe we can do that. Should actually, I'm not even gonna write this in should. I think we should just do this at some point. I don't know where to write this. I'm just gonna write this here. Make the skills into icons since they have tooltips anyway. Maybe show a radial timer with a number of seconds remaining for cooldowns. The zone has a debuff of slower healing or a chance of doubling the damage of crush attacks. Okay, I see. I originally said I could see I'd want characters to do this. Like, you get into a fight and you're just immediately debuffed with, like, you don't have as much healing. But I could see the zone doing that too. I think communicating that is tough without literally just showing text. And showing text in the world is weird. Like, here I did it, this is the boss monster. But yeah, imagine if, I don't know, this thing is, maybe if you saw like something pulsing out of here, like just circles emanating from this, and you were like, what's that? And you hover over it and it says, if you're in this zone. You know what? I'll write it down as an idea. I think it's a good idea. I don't know if I'll do it, but yeah. Maybe the way that this could work is that there could be a beacon in that region and it's emanating circles from it so that you want to hover over it and see what it does. And it tells you the effect. It's like a chip in botland. The name itself is a boss you have to be. Yep, that is actually going to be the case for this, for sure. Is this game fun? I mean, people have answered so far. I had fun playing the game. About 60% of the people said agree, 9% strongly agreed, and a bunch of people are neutral. So, I mean, the majority of people think it's fun as a prototype or had fun. And at least no one strongly disagreed yet. As far as purchasing goes, that is a slightly bleaker table. The number of people who said they would probably buy it is about 40%. Still isn't too bad. I did not use Unity. I used Godot. What do I think about it compared to Unity? I haven't used Unity in many years. I think I first started using Unity in like 2015 or 2014 or something like that. And then I haven't really seriously used it since then. I did like one stream in Unity a while ago. Will there be zones with multiple layers? You mean like going up and down staircases or something? I wasn't thinking about that. And part of the reason why is because you have multiple characters right now, and being able to locate where they are in relation to one another, I think is pretty important. If you imagine like clicking the staircase and having it, zoom into some underground area, then are you still able to see your other characters easily? So I think it's just going to be some like very large world map. Will there be a way to move multiple characters at once? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. But it depends on how many characters you have, right? If you have like 5, it's not so bad to just click each one of the 5 if you wanted to move all of them to the same place, which you probably don't. But if you had 15, then it's really tedious. So right now, by the way, the game sort of makes you think that you want all your characters to be in the same area, right? If they're all the same level, the only place they could really be is in that level zone. But in the future, there might be reasons to go to different zones or to do something. Yeah, box selection at the bottom left of the character list. Yeah, but then there are a lot of things right now that are based on your selected character, like the skill tree. I guess we just had to pick one of those characters. By the way, SPX, you can play the game. I mean, instead of asking, is the game fun, you can conclude that yes or no, it isn't. It'd be cool to be able to play co-op and have 4 players at once. Oh man, I don't know if this person meant it'd be cool. No. I think it's pretty clear. I think play co-op is like they wanted human players for this. Oh man, I'm just thinking because it's fun to think about it. But well, let's not think of what it would take. What would that do? And I think what it would do is it would make it so that I don't know. It would just increase. I'm only thinking about what it would take. It would increase the complexity like a crazy amount. All right. After putting points into a skill, it feels like it should have a higher priority. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Feels bad to place all points and seeing it off cooldown, but a weaker skill gets used. Okay. Any other thoughts you'd like to share? I don't feel like it's really an idle game. I agree. I really enjoyed it. If it was about $5, I could see me playing this a fair bit. It's my kind of game. Doesn't require any headspace. Lets you relax. Nice. That's what I like to hear. I have 3 characters, but can only fight the boss with one of them. I don't know what this means. You can only have one in the boss battle at a time, but that's apparently something we're going to change. But the boss just respawns after that. Did my character get in a battle? Did I not even have one selected? Yeah, so if we go into this battle. So now no one else can join this battle, but you can eventually just wait for it to respawn. But yeah, in the final game, we'll probably just change that completely. Whoa, look at how much damage it is. And I didn't even get any skills. Wait until I'm fully decked out. Gonna wreck this boss. I stunned it. I burned it. Too powerful. Try and stop me. Just gonna park myself in this zone. Let my character kill boss after boss after boss. Almost died over levels. Yeah, the game's not balanced. All right, not clear when you unlock the third character. I know it's an automation game, but there's very little for the player to do right now. If the player is supposed to move the monsters as an activity, move to the monsters, then the monster speed should be lower. If not, then make monsters path to the player. How's the player heal? I don't see the strategy aspect of the game. Right now, mage from level 8 to 16 just stands in the gray room until it dies. Then you return back there to repeat until you have enough levels to go to the next room. If skills are chosen at random, then the optimal strategy is add 1 level to each skill and then do it again. So that all the skills have the same power. Doesn't seem to be any strategy for going all in on Poison Dagger. When hitting the zone breakpoint, the monsters in the previous zone grant very little experience, while monsters with 2 or more levels kill you very fast. Yeah. So, again, this is kind of along the lines of what we've seen before. And I'm not saying that means it's bad feedback or anything. I agree with these as general issues. I think the very little for the player to do right now, I sort of feel like that's always going to be the case. I don't want you to have to micromanage too much. And I think a lot of games that have you micromanage things eventually get tedious. So I wonder if we should just kind of say this is sort of a design aspect and that some people will like it and some people might not. Maybe we'll find out more about this through the prototype that we end up making. Or, well, through the game that we end up making. Stacked him in the boss room and he's killing him over and over again. Can't seem to open the game with Firefox. Yeah, I know, yeah. You'll have to use a stable version of Firefox, I think, or a different browser. My single click gets stuck and starts dragging my screen. Interesting. I haven't heard that one yet. Yeah, I don't know about that. Chose 2 long cooldown skills for the other. A character spams Poison Dagger. Yep. It's a pretty good ability. Yeah, so I think the sort of core aspects of the design of this game are the battle system is not super in-depth and you are not doing too much micromanagement, I guess. I feel like 2 core design aspects of this game are the battle system isn't too in-depth since it's automated. Well, I shouldn't say 2. The game is like mostly automated and the player doesn't have a ton to do at any given time. It's mostly for relaxation. Yeah, but there is still an end. So I feel like this is kind of, I don't know, this is kind of it. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. Great idea, but that's about it. I'd like to see where the game goes. Artwork is very charming. Like the idea of semi-idle combat and growing a character. Yeah, this semi-idle combat is not going to be the thing anymore, though. Well, we're going to try it. We'll see how it goes. You can queue multiple attacks. Yeah. So we're probably, okay. I'll say this again. I'm going to prototype a system that totally changes how abilities work. And I think I might have this written down already. Yeah. So right now you have 3 abilities. Your turns take a certain amount of time and your abilities take a certain amount of time. So you have 2 cooldowns actually. And when it is your turn, it just randomly picks an ability. What we're going to change to is there is no such thing as turn cooldown and abilities just get used immediately when they're ready. Hey, Casey, it's been good. There's been some good feedback. I've gotten quite a lot of feedback. So I think we know how we want to move past the prototype. Although there's one more thing I want to prototype. Attacking with multiple characters at once. Yeah. I think that's, I mean, I guess there's a lot of stuff about bugs and whatever else. But yeah, as far as features go, I think parties and items, I think, show up a decent amount. But I don't want to do items. Warrior felt overpowered. At the start, I didn't realize there were multiple boards until I zoomed out. Maybe too hard to implement. At some point, I want one hero to join a fight. Yeah, so this party's, again. I couldn't see any challenge if I always fight a... I don't know what that means. Game got boring pretty fast if I stick to this rule. I think that's always going to be at the core of this sort of thing. Like if it's an automated game, that means you can always play the fights on easy mode by just picking lower level enemies. Yeah. New here, what's your game about? Check out the today command. Yeah, sorry. I shouldn't have said that because now it's going to type it again. Oh, maybe you didn't hear me. Trailing off for the win. Yeah, so I just launched this morning. This is just a prototype and it's like riddled with problems. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt whether this game's going to be fun or not. But yeah, you start out and you can get into battles. They're turn-based, but you get to the point where you automate these out completely. So I just choose automation. And then when I'm in a battle next, it's just going to pick abilities for me. And so we're going to change quite a lot of this. Yeah, the mental swiftness is going to have to get changed. Yep. It is fun to think about that if you trigger that many times in a row, you just absolutely annihilate your enemies. Okay, played until level 17. Did not really get the blue bar. Yep, that's going to go away. Nice that that's clearer. Having rooms of increasing difficulty is nice. Themes of the rooms are nice, represent increased difficulty. Fight concept has potential. Be awesome if every world you start had a random layout. Too many games get old fast because the world is the same every time you play. Okay, so I get this. I don't think this game would have a lot of replay value, and I don't think that's a problem. There are a lot of games where you play through once, you had a ton of fun, and you just don't want to play through again. So like Super Mario RPG. I think it's a great game, but it's not like you have to only unlock 3 of the 5 characters or something. You just get them all, and you just pick which ones are in your party. And you're not making a lot of like permanent decisions that, oh, now I can't go make another decision. There are only like 3 of those in the game anyway or something. And so you play it and like, I don't know, maybe you wait 10 years and you're like, cool, I want to experience that game again. So yeah, I don't see that as being a problem here. I don't think a random layout would probably help very much. Shoki, are you using Firefox? Because if so, you might need to try a different browser. I think it might only be nightly Firefox that does that. Love the prototype. Nice. Had fun for 45-ish minutes it took to get all characters to 50 plus, kill the boss. More features and polish. I'd buy this game. Nice. Yeah. Played on max trackpad. Zooming is way too fast and uncontrollable. Yeah, this is something I unfortunately can't test with this because I don't have that. But I don't see this being a problem in the final game because presumably we'll get someone who has this and I'll just keep asking, like, does it feel better? Does it feel better? Use Vivaldi. Okay, yeah, you might still need to use a different browser. I'd be down for making the item system. I just don't think there should be an item system in the game. From a design perspective, it just feels wrong to me. I just can't shake the feeling that it's going to be a lot of complexity for like nothing. Because people will have a bunch of questions. Okay, how do I get items? How do I, whatever, what do I do with items I don't want? How do I manage these? What do they do? How do I figure out which one's better than another one? How do you even tell the effects of each of the items? Like, there's like, I don't know. By the way, how do you tell the effects? I don't mean just like a tooltip shows up and says you do more damage. I mean, how do you see through a battle? Is that actually helping me a lot? And I think the classic example of this is just imagine an enemy has 100 life and imagine that you do 51 damage. If you get plus 40% damage, you might be like, oh man, that's awesome. But guess what? It's still going to take exactly 2 hits to kill the enemy, whether you have this or not. Because the only way to actually lower the number of hits from 2 to 1 is to do 100 damage, which is basically doubling the amount that you do already. So you see changes like this and you can conceptualize what it might mean, but in practice, it might mean something totally different. So the only way you'd find out in a game like this is by like really paying attention to what's going on and tracking numbers. And I just feel like it's just not the direction I want to go in. And I don't know. Yeah. Character's top right corner going on mouse click seems strange. Instead of center. This part I don't understand. Hard hitting the enemy hitbox. Wasn't clear on what the blue bar means. Yep. Also unclear why some enemies spawn as several minions. Yeah, this is kind of interesting because I didn't think I wanted it to be clear from the overworld that that's happening. But maybe people do expect that. And maybe we could just render like 9 of the enemies together or something like that. Like they move as a group. So yeah, like this bat, the bat always has extra characters. What if you saw the spiders around the bat somehow? I think it'd look weird. Maybe just hovering over them could tell you or something. Just +1 year of development. Well, the way I look at it is dev time aside, Imagine you snap your fingers and you've got the perfect item system for this game. Does it help the game? And I just don't see how it would. Yeah. Also, think about even like Final Fantasy 1 items. There were some consumable ones, but if we look at... No, wait, those are usable ones, right? Where are the equipable ones? Huh, where's like sword or club or something? Maybe they're not called items? Equipable? Oh, equipment? Yeah. I just want to see a list of all the... Yeah, here we go. Weapons. Okay, so complete weapon list. How many did they even have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Wait, they had more than I thought. If I had to estimate, they probably have about like 50-ish. But then you look at these and it all comes down to like 2 stats, damage and hit rate. And I think some of them might have had a use effect as well. But anyway, it's like, this is like one of the most straightforward item systems you can have. They're just like straight up stats. If there is a use ability on this, it's not that impactful, I guess. Yeah, special effect. Could have smaller versions of the enemies next to the overworld one to show the party. Yeah, I was thinking about that, but then I thought, like, would it look strange? I think it might. I think the thing that would look the least strange is if they traveled as a swarm. Like you saw a bat and you saw 3 spiders next to it. Hey, Alt F4, thanks for the raid. And welcome in, everybody. I just launched this prototype this morning. And so if you want to play, you can take a look through that link. However, I will add some very important caveats. 1, this was prototyped as fast as possible. So I will show you an example of this. You can move outside of the world, and you could do this from day 1, and I never cared about this. This is just not worth fixing for the prototype, because it's easy to imagine, what if you couldn't do that just by not clicking outside of the world? But if you couldn't get into battles or you couldn't level up, it'd be much harder to imagine, okay, now picture an ability system that makes sense. So instead, we actually, coded that stuff. But even then, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of missing from this. And so anyway, yeah, this has been launched today. You can play it. It's free. It's a browser game. If you have Firefox, you might run into some problems. Now, what we're doing is we're looking through feedback. So I asked people a few kind of basic questions here, like this. I had fun playing the game. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. So people are mostly seeming like they're having fun playing this. And that's with all the rough edges and bugs and walking outside of the map and whatever else. And so what we're doing now is just going through the feedback, seeing what we agree with, what we should incorporate. And then there's quite a path ahead of us to make this game. So the next thing I need to do is solidify the new design. So anyway, a long road ahead. I could see this taking many months, but I think it's worth doing. So this is going to become like the 2024 project probably. And we'll just see where this goes. So welcome in, everybody. And yeah, I'm going to just keep going through this feedback. Hope you had a good stream, Alt F4. It'd be as simple as just attack and defense, but then comes the art. But I don't, like, what does the attack and defense do for you? Sorry, let me rephrase that. What does attack and defense do for you that a different system couldn't already do? So in a lot of games, the way that this would work is... Hang on one sec. Yeah, so in a lot of games, the way this would work is like at level 5, your weapon should have whatever, like plus 10 damage, right? And so, and we'll just make up random numbers here. Level 15, maybe you should have plus 30 damage on your weapon. So if we expect you to have this stuff, what this can do is it can serve as a barrier in the game for, okay, time to go find that weapon then, so that you actually are the appropriate strength level for where you're supposed to be. But in this game, it's like, why not just give you the plus 10 damage when you hit level 5 and just say you have a weapon or something? Oh, you know what? Actually, oh my God, I never thought of that, but that might actually not be a bad idea. What if your character had equipment slots, but you never filled them in? They just automatically fill in. This is like the weird, I've never seen an item system that does this, because all it's really doing is it's just basically saying you have the stats. But that's the one way I could see items being kind of interesting. But I think it would just confuse players. I think they'd be like, why can't I equip the items? But yeah, it's essentially that I'm thinking. Like, why have the items if they're not really going to matter? Alternatively, you know what? Okay, there is another way of theming this system. Okay, maybe there is something in this idea a little bit. Let me write this down. So if we had items, here's a system I could stomach. Characters have equipment slots, but you never actually find items. Or you never find or craft items. They're either I don't know, they're like materialized on leveling or they're quest rewards. Items have a strict like power increase. So item A is always worse than item B, which is always worse than item C. So yeah. So basically, well, you never actually equip items, I should say. Not that you don't find them. They're either like found on leveling or they're quest rewards. Items have strict power increase. Yeah. So if you find item A after finding item C, it's as though you never found an item in the first place. Yeah. And I don't even think I want to do this, but like this would probably be the one that's most amenable to me. You think you're gonna stick with Godot? I will, I think, but I don't think I'll use GD script. I think I'm gonna use C#. Extra layer of variety and the cost of complexity, but it's more suitable for bigger games. Yeah, I think being sort of in the chill, relaxing kind of game, area, I think I want to avoid the item system. But yeah, this is probably how I would do it. Game just crashed your browser. Yeah, it doesn't work in some browsers, and it's not even supposed to be a browser game. So that's why I'm not super concerned about like taking more details or anything. Once we're done with maybe I'll say like after another week or maybe 2 weeks, that's it. We're just like never touching this code base again. And I'll just start over and it'll be a game you download instead of a game you play through the browser. Yeah, you can get really meta with items and descriptions. Yeah, I think it's an interesting system. Like it does give you that sense of progression. It gives you a sense of progression without having to make any choices because the power increase is always upward. Does it use HTML and CSS? No, it does not. Yeah, so I could see something like this being kind of interesting. Again, picture your typical like character. What do they call them? They have a name for this. Diablo 2 character or inventory. I'll just search for this. Paper something, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, picture equipment slots like this. So we have a helm, an armor, chest armor, gloves, a couple rings. And imagine, so in Diablo 2, you had an inventory and you clicked and dragged it into your whatever you want to equip. Yeah, imagine that this is just filling out on its own. So you hit level 5 and you're like, oh, an amulet appeared. I have +5 defense. Cool. And then you hit level 10 and you do this and you complete a quest and you get this. And it's essentially just like item number 607. Sure, we give it a name and a graphic, but you're not ever unequipping it or something. Your character's just more powerful. Once it's download only, will it be platform specific? I don't think there'll be any problem with me exporting to all the different platforms because now I have a Mac. And Mac is always the barrier because you need to have a Mac to produce for a Mac or access to a Mac, I guess. And access to a Mac usually costs money. Fun Easter eggs to make the idle gamer smile. I know this is called Idle Ascendants, but it's not an idle game. And so we got to come up with a new title before we finish making it or before we continue making it. All right, let me zip through some of these things too. Intercept this. Yep. Monster hunting. Bigger areas, grid movement. Oh, I went through these. I didn't go through these yet. Okay, like the stream content. Very interesting following your thought process. Cool. I think a world without walls would be nifty, even if it was rough. Overall, I think this is really interesting. It could be a fun and cool idle game. Worth noting, based on this stage, it's impossible for me to judge whether I'd buy it or not. It's a bit too rough and a bit too far from it. Yeah, I agree. I'd pay for an idle game that has characters evolving over time, but that's really all I can say right now. Yeah, by the way, that concept has come up a couple times of what if a character evolved. I'm not gonna write it down. I was gonna say Final Fantasy 1 did this. You started with a fighter and it ended up being a knight or something, and you started the black belt and it ended up being a ninja. And I think that was kind of cool for Final Fantasy 1. I probably wouldn't do it for this. Movement confused me at first, but it is not awful. I love it when people phrase things like this. It just cracks me up. And every once in a while, people don't know that they phrase things like this. Like, imagine you went over to dinner and you said something like, yeah, the food wasn't awful. Like, that could technically mean it was the best food you ever had in your life, right? But you wouldn't say that if it was the best food you ever had in your life. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It feels like I'm on ice, and yeah, that's totally reasonable. I think we can fix this. As it stands, it feels like the automation mechanic takes away a form of engagement, but doesn't replace it with anything. I find this very odd, makes me less involved with the game. Makes me feel like I should just park my characters in places and let the game run for some time. I'm guessing this is not the intent. Like I said, I think your influence over battles right now is through the skills that you pick, where you fight, and also which skills you have equipped. I guess I should say skills that you pick and then skills you upgrade. So, you know, working your way through the tree. It's not even really a tree, it's a skill table. And yeah, beyond that, I guess it is a question to answer. Like, every game has some input that you're providing, or else it's essentially just a movie, right? And those inputs don't have to be very intense. Like, there are story-driven games where you just point and click, and it's not like you're directly controlling your character. Is this like Binding of Isaac and Hades? No. You should play it and check it out. I think that'll answer it better than I can answer it. Hope you make the prototypes on Mac too. Yeah, well, actually, you know what? At some point, Godot is going to fix the C# web export thing. Right now, there's no way to make a C# game in Godot with 4 point whatever and export to the web. It's just not a feature that exists yet. So you'd have to either downgrade to Godot 3, which I'm not going to do, or you have to use GDScript, which is what I chose for this. But at some point, maybe 2 months from now or something, I don't know how long they're going to take, but it will be possible. And then I guess to make it easier to distribute just for testing, I could do the same thing. I don't want to launch it as a web game, but yeah. Yeah, so I think this is another question worth asking. I am not blazing through this stuff. Oh my God, it's also 4:46. I've been streaming for way longer than normal today. Yeah, look at that. It's been 7 hours. Okay, so let's write some things down and then let's start. How much, or like, what do I want the player to do? Several people said it's not fully idle, and other people said that there's not much other than parking your character somewhere. So yeah, what do I want? All right, let's zip through this. We're into zipping. Where'd I leave off? Yeah, XP gain feels a lot slower. With Mage, level 29, Necromancer, Warrior, I've given up every character but Mage. Too much work micromanaging, totally fine. Necromancer sucks, I think. Movements are cached and executed after battle as intended. Yeah, although this didn't matter too much. That wasn't important to the prototype. To be honest, it's kind of boring. Played it until I could kill the boss to give it a fair shot. In my opinion, my problem is somewhat this. It's not really idle or incremental, but also not really engaged in combat or tactical combat. Don't want to be harsh, it's somewhat mindless. As a player, I have little no decisions and actions to take. Didn't follow all streams, so I might miss the point. I don't think this person missed the point. And I think this is true. This is why I think positioning it as a simulator is maybe a little bit better. And maybe the word simulator in titles allows you to make essentially a boring game. Like, I played a game called Power Wash Simulator. Do you know how wild that would have sounded to me if you told me 2 decades ago I was going to play a game called Power Wash Simulator? And yet, I guess some people enjoy watching power washing, but how many of you have actually power washed something and sat there for like an hour trying to get moss off of a shingle or something like that? It's not it's not fun. So a game about it also isn't really all that fun, but you go into it knowing what you're getting. So your expectations are set. And it's some like weird completionist thing that lets you turn your brain off. And to some extent, I think that's even how games like Minecraft work. It's like people have built some impressive stuff, but placing block after block after block is not really what's fun. It's the thought that you're working towards something bigger. Power Wash Simulator is not boring. It's exciting, hard work. Oh boy. Yeah, I feel like we need to position this as a simulator game. And somehow lean into that. And I don't know how you lean into that. Feel the intro screen needs a little work. Seems too simple for a prototype. I definitely agree that it needs work, but I think the too simple for the prototype is like it just needed to have 2 buttons on it. So yeah. I think if we had, final artwork, we'd put in a logo, we'd put in a background, etc. Goat Simulator. Yeah, there are a lot of simulator games like that. There is Trucker Simulator or something like that. What's it called? It might actually be called Trucker Simulator. I don't remember. But you're just driving a truck. You're just driving a truck. What is that game called? I want to look this up. Euro Truck Simulator. Yeah, that. Holy cow, this game. Overwhelmingly positive. Yeah. Like, who would have thought this would exist years and years ago? I mean, look at all these trucks and the roads. Are you kidding me? Look at those steering wheels. I could say this about everything and you wouldn't know if I'm serious or not. Look at that building. Wow, this game has everything. And yet you can't argue with 500,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews. So, yeah. Also, I know that you're doing things in those games. Power Wash Simulator, you can't just sit there. But, yeah. Just out of curiosity, I would need to translate this. So let me go translate this. What is the meaning of the word? I don't know what word. Power Wash Simulator has over 100 viewers on Twitch. Is it all one channel? What do you think of Hades' system that allows you to increase the difficulty by making certain aspects of the game more difficult once you complete it? I think I remember liking it. I haven't played Hades in so long that it's hard to say exactly. I know you might just be asking about the concept of that. Like, what if you could change the difficulty of some aspect? I think Rogue Legacy 2 also did something like this. And to be honest, I kind of like it when the game decides for me what to make more difficult. Because if I'm deciding, then I'm kind of doing this weird thing where it's like, what's not actually going to increase the difficulty for me all that much? That's how I felt with Rogue Legacy 2 at least. But yeah, it's sometimes nice to replay things with a harder difficulty. Did it actually translate to that for me? Yeah, I just typed it in Google, or maybe Bing Translate. I don't know what I did. Weird performance issue. Huh. Mechanic Simulator. Man. Played quite some hours of Lawn Mowing Simulator. This would sound like a perverted joke a long time ago. Like, go to your room and play Lawn Mowing Simulator. That's your punishment. Oh, man. When leveling, which already has items, is a good solution. This game focuses on automation. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I don't know what I did then. Maybe I typed it in. I don't know. Bit too early in development to fairly judge it. Be cool to specify the ability the automation chooses rather than being random. Music was great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the one thing I definitely think sounded awesome from what I did. Played it for longer than I would most games. Think this was due to the semi-idle nature, which I found appealing. Good work so far. Feels slightly off. The character movement inputs are stored when entering a battle, forcing your character to move to the next location. Yeah. Mention you don't have any plans to support mobile, and I totally understand that because I don't play mobile games myself. I could see this being a game that people bring up to mess with while they're waiting in line. Also, you're talking about items. I'm with you 100%. I'd prefer this to not be an inventory micromanagement system. Other feedback. Love your streams. I may not talk very much. may not talk much, very rarely, but I always like to have you on in the background. Nice. How nice. Okay, now I can't show the other questions because the other questions were what's your contact information, but I can scroll down. Oh, hey, check this out. I can actually show this too. Are you interested in playtesting over the next few months? So here were the answers. And actually, this is pretty heartening, although it makes sense. Yes was overwhelmingly the answer here. It was, what is that, 88%, 88.2? So 88.2% said that they would want to play, which I think maybe speaks more than the did you have fun part, because that means that like people might not have had fun now and they might not be willing to buy it based on what they see. But if they still want to play, then that means that they have some hope that it's going to get better. Pretty interesting. And then Page answered with, "You know where to find me," and a winky face. Oh, that. Yeah. All right, cool. This was very, very, very fun. And I have something else that I really want to do right now, which is pat myself on the back, but not exactly that self-serving. I want to analyze what led to this. I want to practice what I preach here. So in order to do this, let's pull up the journal. And we can see that I started the game design for this on March 13th. So in less than a month, we went from having nothing figured out about this game to actually, you know what? That game design, I don't even think it was this game. Was it? Didn't we do some, we did like 3 hours of just designing a game. And I think we talked about other games, like a card game and some other things. Anyway, in less than a month, we went from having nothing to having this game that is now, I mean, it's playable. It's certainly not great. I'm not gonna not gonna argue that it's amazing or something, but yeah, I composed some music. And yeah, this took a lot of dedication for that time because it was intense. There's a lot of coding, a lot of just learning when to cut corners. There are a lot of problems I wanted to dig into that I couldn't because I knew they weren't going to be productive for that time, and that now that we're going to make a proper game, we're going to have to dig into. Yeah, I went through the old game ideas. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to celebrate. So this weekend, I think we're going to go to a cookie place. I love cookies. So I'm going to get some like fancy cookie. And there was something else I wanted to do. I think there's some restaurant. I forgot which one I chose, but yeah. So I'm going to celebrate. I didn't steal any of them. Wink, wink. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. This was super fun. Thank you all for watching this journey. Really, I know this is just the beginning of probably making this game, and there's a lot of work after this. How big are the cookies? I'm not actually totally sure, but I think they're like normal sized cookies. They just happen to be fancy. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I gotta take a break from streaming for a bit because of how intense all of this stuff was. So next week, is that April 8th? Yeah. Next week we have one mentoring session and then potentially an interview. But beyond that, I'm gonna kind of just try to, I might take a couple days off next week. I might only stream on Monday. I'm not actually sure yet. And then when I am streaming, I'm probably going to do some like design work, and we're going to still just be talking about stuff. I don't want to get stuck in design forever. So we're not going to spend like a month designing this probably. We're going to move forward at some point, and we're going to have some hard decisions to make around all of this. And I said that up until this point, I didn't want to spend any money on the game. And I haven't. I mean, it didn't cost any money to make that prototype. But I want to keep my budget very low. So that's going to be a little tough. You know what I might do next week? I might do some like music creation streams, and we'll just kind of see now that we have a prototype, like what fits with the game, and maybe people can provide some feedback for that. Let me write that down. Monday and beyond. Figure out how to take some time off. Code review, go over feedback, mentoring, and then music creation. see if this is fun. Yeah. Because I have this little keyboard. just a few keys on it. And I have a couple other keyboards too. This one is just a MIDI controller. Any Sonic cookies? Oh man, that would be awesome. Passing on the job? Horrible culture? Oh man. Did I miss what job this is? I think you might have. Oh, I can't do that. Hang on a sec. Oh, the behavioral interview. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, but the horrible culture part, I think you should feel good about passing on that. Because I think a lot of people ignore this when they get a job. They think, oh, I just need a job, or this is really good money or something, and then they're kind of miserable. Master Blaster was really good. I don't think I want to make it 8-bit though. I think I'm going to go in the same vein that you already just heard for the game, like this. It's synthesized instruments. They don't sound like real instruments, but that's okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got to get going. We're having people over tonight. We're having people over tomorrow. There's a lot going on. I'm going to do another one of these, like put almost no time into deciding who to raid. Oh, you know, I haven't raided Hagerman Hour. Let's raid Hagerman Hour. I cut that keyboard in half too. Yep. I want to get down to just having one key that I press, and it's always the correct thing. All right. Thank you all. I hope you have a great weekend. If you haven't already played the game, there's the link to it. I'm gonna get going. I'll see you all on Monday. Take care.